Chapter 968 Evolving the Emblem. Chapter 968 Evolving the Emblem. Hellscythe_Fluffy Goblin. How is this divine might be so powerful? Feng could only look at the damaged god crystal. He could not even move a finger. The powerful divine might could even overpower Tier 5 NPCs. It was hard to imagine that this was merely a damaged god crystal. Even the complete god crystal he had previously snatched from a Tier 4 monster had not been as powerful as this. If he weren't in his private warehouse, the god crystal's divine might be enough to paralyze every player in the bank, causing a commotion in White River City. Although this damaged god crystal was quite powerful, in front of the Holy Grail, it was a sheep for the slaughter. It could only wait for its death. The Holy Grail then radiated a purple aura that spread throughout the warehouse. This purple aura ate away at the divine might rapidly, and Feng's private warehouse was soon void of divine magic. As for the damaged god crystal, it could barely stay afloat, while it struggled desperately against the Holy Grail's aura. Suddenly, the sound of a system notification reached Feng's ears. System, do you wish to allow the Holy Grail to absorb the Titan core? This is a Titan core? The sudden revelation surprised Feng. He used omniscient eyes once more to check the damaged god crystal. Titan core, the 10 great saints of Titan's greatest masterpiece. The Titan core is capable of supplying a near-infinite amount of energy. It originally served as the Titan fortress's power core. However, it had been heavily damaged during the war between gods. When Feng finished reading the description, he was thunderstruck. He had heard of this item before. It could be used to construct a war fortress's power core, which was also the most important component in a war fortress. A war fortress was far more difficult to construct than a city, as it was a machine meant for slaughter. Even Tier 5 NPCs would flee from a war fortress as a single, random strike was enough to end their lives. However, moving a powerful war fortress required an astronomical amount of energy. Hence, one needed a very powerful power source. Among the available materials in God's domain, the Titan core was the best option. Speaking of war fortresses, Feng had seen one in the Physis Canyon. He had also accepted the unique quest. Steel Fortress Borussia. He had nearly lost his life attempting to power the Steel Fortress Borussia with the Titan's heart. However, although the Titan's heart could also be used as a power core, it was far weaker than the Titan core. The Titan core possessed divine might, while the Titan's heart only possessed power. If the Titan's heart were powerful enough to threaten Tier 5 classes, the Titan core was powerful enough to invoke God's fear. Moreover, unlike the Titan core, the Titan's heart's energy was limited. Even 100 Titan's hearts were not as valuable as one Titan core. Do I absorb it? Feng hesitated. To a guild, the Titan core was leagues more important than a legendary item. Of the many components needed to construct a war fortress, the power core was the most difficult to obtain. In the past, this had caused many headaches for many of God's domain's major powers. Moreover, even if they obtained a power source, they would not mobilize their war fortress due to the immense energy consumption. However, there was no denying a war fortress's extreme power. If a Tier 5 player could defend a town with a player population over 1 million, a war fortress could defend nearly half of a kingdom's territory. Moreover, that was with a limited energy source when it could not be moved casually. Obtaining or producing another power source was immensely difficult. If he could equip a war fortress with the Titan core, the war fortress would have no problems defending an entire kingdom. Even the superguilds in the past had not had such a weapon of mass destruction. Moreover, powering a war fortress was only one of the Titan core's functions. The Titan core could also be used in a player-constructed city to emulate the holy city of Titan. According to legend, 18 Titan cores powered Titan City, granting it infinite energy. In the distant past, a large group of Tier 6 gods had attacked the holy city. In the end, however, these gods had failed. Titan City's dense mana and its floating lifestyle association were due to its endless amount of energy. One could just imagine how precious a Titan core was. If he allowed the Holy Grail to absorb the Titan core now, it would be nigh impossible to obtain another in the future. After all, Titan City's 10 saints were long gone. There was no one around who was capable of producing another Titan core. In the end, after giving it some thought, Feng decided to withhold the Titan core from the Holy Grail. Although the Titan core was damaged and could not be used, there was hope of repairing it. After all, he had the Holy City's emblem. He could enter Titan City any time he wanted. As the Titan core's birthplace, he should be able to learn how to repair it in Titan City. To stop the Holy Grail from creating the Titan core, Feng stored the core in another safe. No one was allowed to open the safes in a private warehouse without the user's approval. The items in these safes would also be disconnected from the outside world. Sure enough, after Feng stored the Titan core inside a safe, the Holy Grail receded its aura and fell dormant. It seems I'll have to look for other god crystals to restore the Holy Grail. Feng sighed as he looked at the Holy Grail, which emitted a purple hue. He suddenly had a realization. Since the Grail can evolve an item, I wonder if it can evolve the Holy City's emblem? Although there was no indication of the Holy City's emblem having a rank, the Titan City entrance tokens were divided into ranks. His black iron entrance tokens allowed wielders to enter the Holy City for 3 days. If players possessed sufficient reputation, they could extend their stay. Silver was the next rank. Wielders of the silver entrance token could stay in the Holy City for 6 days. Similarly, they could extend their stay with sufficient reputation. The highest ranking entrance token was the gold entrance token. It allowed players to stay in the Holy City for up to 10 days. Which token players acquired depended on which difficulty they chose when challenging the entrance trial. Titan City's entrance trial was not limited to one difficulty setting. Only, as Feng's team was still too low level and only consisted of Tier 1 players, they had not had any other options. When the team had Tier 2 players, the entrance trial would provide a hard mode difficulty. As long as players cleared the hard mode trial, they could obtain silver tokens. When Tier 3 players were present in the team, Hell mode would be made available, from which players could obtain the golden tokens. The normal mode of Titan City's entrance trial was already as difficult, or more, as the Hell mode difficulty of a 100-man large-scale team dungeon, not to mention hard mode and Hell mode. Even in the past, Feng had never heard of a team obtaining the gold tokens, and extremely few teams had managed to obtain the silver tokens. Most had settled for black iron. /novelful. Since the entrance tokens were divided by ranks, the Holy City's emblems should have ranks as well. After all, he had obtained his Holy City's emblem from normal mode. What about those obtained from hard mode and Hell mode? Thinking up to this point, Feng could not help but click on the Holy Grail and select its power of evolution skill. He chose the Holy City's emblem as the evolution's target. Chapter 969 Evolved Effects. Chapter 969 Evolved Effects. Hellscythe_Fluffy Goblin. I should be able to evolve it, right? Although Feng had chosen to evolve the Holy City's emblem, he still wasn't sure that his plan was feasible. After all, unlike weapons and equipment, the Holy City's emblem did not have a rank to differentiate it from others. Suddenly, a strand of purple mist flowed from the light blue Holy Grail, gently wrapping around the flashing silver emblem in Feng's hand as if scanning it. 3 seconds later, Feng heard the sound of a system notification. System, do you wish to sacrifice 1000 HP permanently to evolve the Holy City's emblem? Sure enough, a legendary item is amazing. Excitement lit up Feng's face. Although losing 1000 HP stung, the return was worth the cost. As long as the evolution succeeded, this item would be far more valuable than an epic item. Feng agreed to the evolution. Feng's maximum HP then fell by 1000, from 26,300 to 25,300. However, despite the loss, Feng's HP was still much higher than Kola's. If Feng activated the 7 Luminaries' Ring's aura of Earth, he could even become a sturdier MT than Kola. As Feng's HP decreased, streams of green liquid flowed from his body and into the Holy Grail. In turn, the Holy Grail radiated a dazzling purple glow that gradually melded with the Holy City's emblem. Suddenly, the emblem radiated a dazzling golden glow that enveloped the warehouse. Was it a success? Feng stared at the holy city's emblem, tension tightening his features. If the evolution were a success, the candlelight trading firm's future would be limitless. While other guilds were expending effort and resources to nurture advanced lifestyle players, he could easily nurture one batch after another, giving the candlelight trading firm a massive advantage over other trading firms. At that time, even if Candlelight lacked shops, it could easily overwhelm its rivals with a large stock of advanced products. If they could nurture a master rank player, they could earn staggering amounts of money. If the evolution failed, though, he would have to wait another 10 days before he could try again. He would also have to sacrifice another 1000 HP. The thought soured Feng's mood. However, as depressing as it was, he would gladly sacrifice another 1000 HP. After all, Titan City held the key to the candlelight trading firm's future. After the golden glow dissipated, the originally silver holy city's emblem shone a pale gold. Moreover, tiny divine runes had been carved on the emblem, which gathered surrounding mana. It almost seemed like a faint mist had wrapped around the emblem, giving it an aura of mystery. Following which, Feng inspected the holy city's emblem statistics. Holy City's emblem opens a transfer gate to Titan City. A maximum of 20 people may pass through the gate. Each time the wielder of the Holy City's emblem enters the Holy City of Titan, they can extend their stay by up to 2 days. Cooldown, 7 days. After Feng finished reading the introduction, he was ecstatic. Although the evolved emblem did not extend a player's stay like the higher-ranked entrance tokens, it now allowed 20 people to enter Titan City rather than 10. Moreover, the wielder could stay in the Holy City 2 days more than everyone else. Now, the Holy City's emblem was practically a permanent residence permit for Feng. Generally, ordinary players could only stay in Titan City for 3 days, while Feng, as one of the city's honorary citizens, could stay up to 5 days. Including the emblem's new effects, he could extend his stay in the Holy City to 7 days, which was exactly how long the cooldown lasted. With this, even if Feng did not raise his reputation, he could stay in Titan City as long as he wanted. Titan City was heavenly for both lifestyle players and combat players. Not bad. With this, I won't have to worry about time constraints when I'm questing in Titan City. Feng smiled at the pale gold emblem in his hand. Titan City was a holy land to both lifestyle players and combat players. Only, as the slots to enter the city were extremely valuable, most guilds that possessed them only used them on lifestyle players who could contribute more to the guild than combat players. However, as more players reached Titan City, combat players would discover the holy city's benefits. They would also discover that they would enjoy just as many benefits as lifestyle players. Only the various guilds had only discovered late in the game. By then, Titan City's benefits were no longer useful to Apex experts. Starmoon City, Ouroboros' guild residence. Due to the Blackwater Corporation's visit, the entire guild was a mess. Many of the players lounged around the guild residence's main hall, not in the mood to level up. Instead, they chatted among themselves about the guild's situation. At the same time, an argument raged in the residence's meeting room. Do your companies really intend to side with the Blackwater Corporation? Have you never considered the fact that Blackwater is simply trying to annex Ouroboros and turn it into one of its toys? At that time, your companies won't have anything to do with Ouroboros at all. Zhao Yueru bellowed, furious as she glared at the several guild elders beside her. Won't you reconsider this? The guild elders not affiliated with a company nodded, showing their support for Zhao Yueru's words. The Blackwater Corporation was ruthless and cruel. Before it had even obtained Ouroboros, it was asking its guild leader to step down and relinquish full management rights. One could only imagine what Blackwater would do once it truly secured the guild. Ouroboros' name would vanish from the virtual gaming world. After the Blackwater Corporation obtained 90% of Ouroboros' shares, it would only be a matter of time before it obtained the remaining 10% and devoured Ouroboros. Aside from the compensation fees, these companies would have nothing left. Currently, God's Domain's popularity was rising rapidly due to the Mind Space System's launch. Even a fool could tell what would become of God's Domain in the future. Otherwise, so many companies from around the world wouldn't be investing in the game. As a first-rate guild, Ouroboros had a significant advantage. It had already amassed plenty of lands. However, if they allowed Blackwater to take everything, these companies would never be able to establish another guild as powerful as Ouroboros, no matter how much money they spent. By giving in to the Blackwater Corporation, these companies were ignoring long-term profits for short-term gains. Regarding the problem of your funds, I have begun to sell the materials in the guild's warehouse to collect more. Including the funds I have, and based on my estimations, we should be able to fund your company's resistance against Blackwater for some time. Ouroboros can use this time to capture a few towns. With the income from these towns, the guild will be able to sustain itself. It will no longer have to purchase coins from others or hire money farming teams. Meanwhile, you will retain your shares of Ouroboros. What do you think? Novelful. Calm Gentle Snow proposed her plan calmly as she shifted her gaze towards the several elders representing various companies. Although her plan was effectively cutting off Ouroboros' means of retreat, this was the guild's best option. Chapter 970 Greatest Advantage. Chapter 970 Greatest Advantage. Hellscythe_Fluffy Goblin. The company representative elders fell silent after Gentle Snow's proposal. They had never imagined that Gentle Snow would take such decisive action, sacrificing the materials their guild had struggled to accumulate. This would damage Ouroboros immensely, and be robbing Peter to pay Paul. In reality, she had not solved the fundamental problem. Novelful. Calm, however, if they gathered enough capital to cover their company's sudden shortage of funds and endure this difficult period, their companies could make a comeback and slap the Blackwater Corporation in the face. Moreover, as Gentle Snow had said, if Ouroboros could obtain a few towns within a short time and maintain Ouroboros' profitable state, their companies would hold on to Ouroboros tightly, rather than surrender their shares to Blackwater. In God's Domain, captured towns were different from NPC cities. Unlike in NPC cities, where players were under many restrictions, players could build as they wished in their own town. Moreover, constructing a house in a town was far cheaper. Most importantly, players wouldn't be limited in what items they could sell. In the shops in NPC cities, players were only allowed to sell items that were native to God's Domain. In a player-owned town, however, players could sell foreign products such as cosmetic items. Unlike weapons and equipment, cosmetic items did not possess attributes. At the same time, cosmetic items could only be worn within player-owned territory. They could not be worn in the fields or NPC cities. Moreover, designing cosmetic items in the game was not an easy task. Although it was not as troublesome and meticulous as weaving, leather making, or forging attributed equipment, and crafting required an advanced lifestyle player's skills, cosmetic items could only be crafted using native materials in God's Domain. As a result, players were required to look for suitable materials to create pleasant-looking cosmetic items, which was not easy. Furthermore, more than one form of currency could be used. In player-owned towns, shops had the option of selling their items for either credits or coins, which was convenient for both players and shops. Take Stone Forest Town for example. As the first town to be captured in Starmoon Kingdom, it had grown considerably. Stone Forest Town's residential player population also increased by the dam. A lack of safety was the only issue as the area was home to high-level monsters. This prevented low-level players, who only sought entertainment, from visiting. Even so, many companies eagerly wanted to cooperate with Zero Wing. It was especially true for companies in the clothing industry. They all wanted to drown Zero Wing in credits. However, for some unknown reason, Zero Wing had turned these companies down. Instead, it constructed hotels, smithies, bars, and other establishments. The town was nearly out of space already. Seeing the large numbers of players swarming to Stone Forest Town, many companies had cursed Zero Wing as insane. The guild was ignoring a golden opportunity to earn a fortune. We'll contact our superiors immediately. However, we cannot guarantee that they will be willing to take this risk. The several elders representing companies nodded before logging out of God's domain. Hearing the several elders answer, the other upper echelons relaxed slightly. Inside Star Moon Kingdom's Divine Colosseum, a large group of players ranging between level 10 and level 20 wandered in and out of Trial Tower. Although these players were not very high-leveled, and their equipment was subpar at best, others were shocked by how many floors they were clearing. Of these players, the weakest among them had even reached the Trial Tower's 6th floor. Brother Wave, the people that young Master Jing sent are incredible. Their improvement speeds are astounding. It won't even be long before they surpass me. A tall level 39 ranger, who sat beside Abandoned Wave, said, smiling bitterly. No matter what was said or done, he was a famous expert in the virtual gaming world. This time, he had been specially hired to train a group of newcomers who had recently joined the virtual gaming world. He had initially thought that this would be a simple job. However, the moment he met these newcomers, he sensed a dense killing intent and hostility. Their auras were nothing like an ordinary player's, and he could instantly tell that these experts had been well-tempered in live combat. Among these newcomers, a few even felt stifling. These newcomers had already surpassed him and reached the realm he had always dreamed of. This is all thanks to your guidance. Otherwise, they wouldn't have grasped God's domain's combat basics so quickly. When more newcomers arrive, I'll have to trouble you again. Abandoned Wave was quite satisfied as he watched the new group enter the Trial Tower. As long as he raised these people's levels, it would only be a matter of time before Blackwater took over Star Moon Kingdom. Before he had joined the game, he would never have imagined that combat in God's domain was as realistic as real-world combat. The only differences were players' skills and superhuman physiques. To the Blackwater Corporation, the game's realistic combat was its greatest advantage. After all, Blackwater was a giant in the fighting world. No one had more combat experts or method of nurturing experts than Blackwater. Unlike other companies, which struggled to nurture their own gaming experts in God's domain, it was a simple task for the Blackwater Corporation. Blackwater only needed to assist players in adapting to God's domain's combat style. Suddenly, a bald, robust man rushed up to Abandoned Wave and whispered, "Big Brother Wave, a message has arrived from Ouroboros. It seems that Gentle Snow is trying to use the guild's collected materials to compensate the companies for their missing funds. Moreover, someone in White River City has already agreed to purchase all of Ouroboros' rare herbs and ores. Should we do something to stop her?" "Ha! Interesting. It seems that Gentle Snow is good for more than just her pretty face. She is a daring beauty. It makes me somewhat reluctant to let her go." Abandoned Wave could not help but roar with laughter. It's a pity that her efforts are pointless. She doesn't understand Blackwater's power. She doesn't know these companies' true intentions either. Gentle Snow has a considerable amount of Ouroboros' shares. Even if those companies pressure her, they can't stop her from selling the materials. However, I can't let her have her way. Notify Gale and the others and have them warn the buyer. I don't want Ouroboros to have a raw material shortage when I take control." Understood. After Abandoned Wave finished issuing his instructions, the bald man left the Divine Colosseum. Chapter 971 White River City's Transformation. Chapter 971 White River City's Transformation. Star Moon City, Ouroboros' guild residence. Bursting into the meeting room, the tall, robust berserker Fierce Snake hurried to Gentle Snow's side and quietly reported, "Guild leader, good news. You've been worried that we wouldn't be able to sell the materials fast enough, right? A while ago, we found someone willing to purchase all of our rare herbs and ores. Moreover, the attribute gemstones sales in the various major cities are going quite well. We'll collect the necessary funds in no time." "All right." Gentle Snow's expression, which had been tense until now, finally relaxed. "Assemble the materials in the various warehouses immediately." Selling all of the materials Ouroboros had, even at 80% market value, in such a short time would be a daunting task. After all, there was a limit to how much the market could digest. If they could not gather the required funds in time, her proposal would have been nothing but talk. Now that someone wanted to spend the coins to purchase their stock, they had helped her considerably. When Gentle Snow finished instructing Fierce Snake, the several company representative elders came back online. How did you manage to get an answer so quickly? Gentle Snow felt something off when she saw the several elders. Such an important decision wasn't easy to make. At the very least, these companies would have had to hold an emergency meeting with their directors before making a decision, yet these elders had only been gone for less than 10 minutes. Have you decided to submit to Blackwater in the end? Gentle Snow's expression darkened. She had only recently chased away Chao Chenhua after much difficulty and snatched back control of the guild, which had originally belonged to her elder brother. She had never expected several of Ouroboros's investors to abandon them just as she was starting to push the guild onto the right track. With just her family's company, she could not stand against these major companies when they worked together. Update by Novelful.com. Guild Leader Snow, please understand that this is a world where the strong eat the weak. Our companies simply cannot stand against the Blackwater Corporation. Please prepare to hand over the position of Ouroboros's guild leader. We also hope that you will support the new guild leader. As for the White Clan Group's shares, we will buy them back in 3 days. After the company representative elders gave their answer, they sighed powerlessly as they logged out of the game. Although they were only the representatives of their respective companies, they knew that their companies had already signed a private agreement with the Blackwater Corporation. They no longer intended to play with the White Clan Group as they had found a new playmate. Despicable! How could they do something like this? We were blind to think we actually accepted these companies' investments in the guild. The dozen or so elders, who had fought long and hard with Ouroboros, started to bash the investors. To them, Ouroboros was their home. They had worked for Ouroboros for over 20 years. Now that someone else was taking over their guild, why wouldn't they be angry? Snow. Zhao Yueru didn't know how to console her friend. The White Clan Group had made its fortune in the virtual gaming world. It had established Ouroboros and gradually developed the guild, taking over a dozen years to elevate it from a third-rate guild to a first-rate guild. Afterward, Ouroboros had dominated over a dozen virtual reality games, yet now it was crumbling in Gentle Snow's hands. Zhao Yueru did not know what to say. I'm fine. Gentle Snow waved her hand. However, she was extremely pale. After a few minutes of silence, she took a deep breath and said, Those companies and the Blackwater Corporation are underestimating me. Since Ouroboros cannot be salvaged, the White Clan Group will start a new Ouroboros. Although the investing companies had secured Ouroboros's management, and thus, the guild shops, gaming experts were the true key to a guild's power. Due to Chao Chenhua's mutiny, the White Clan Group controlled Ouroboros's god-slaying army. It did not belong to the guild. As a preventive measure against Chao Chenhua, Gentle Snow had purchased over a dozen plots of land in Star Moon City and several other high-population cities under her name. However, she hadn't expected those preventative measures to come into play now. Fierce, you don't have to deliver the goods anymore. I'll meet with the buyer personally, Gentle Snow said. Although the Blackwater Corporation now owned Ouroboros, she was still the guild leader. She also possessed a significant portion of the guild's shares, so she still had the authority to transfer a considerable amount of resources. Since she was going to leave Ouroboros, she needed to take some things with her. She wouldn't allow Blackwater to get its hands on the resources under the White Clan Group's management. Although she couldn't transfer the guild's resources in bulk, coins were much easier to move. Moreover, upstart guilds lacked money the most. With the money from selling the materials, she could easily build a sturdy foundation for her new guild. Following which, Gentle Snow left the meeting room. At the same time, Zhao Yueru began to mobilize the god-slaying army and other guild members. When the time came, she would take as many people with her as possible. Although they could not leave Ouroboros an empty husk, they could at least cause the Blackwater Corporation to pop a vein or two when it took over the guild's management. In front of White River City's bank. Guild leader, the buyer is inside the bank. The middle-aged man, who sold items in front of the bank, rushed up to greet Gentle Snow when she arrived. On her way to the bank, Gentle Snow was greatly surprised by White River City's atmosphere. Despite Starmoon City being the kingdom's capital, the vibe in White River City felt as if should be the capital instead. As she traveled through the city, she saw many teams from various first-rate guilds. There were more and higher quality players in White River City than in Starmoon City. She had even seen a few players riding through the city atop mounts. One wouldn't see this in Starmoon City, yet it seemed that White River City's players were already used to these sights. One would even be hard-pressed to find such happenings in imperial capitals. When Gentle Snow entered the bank, the middle-aged man guided her to a corner of the main hall. Feng sat there alone, a black cloak covering his body. However, even though Gentle Snow could not see Feng's appearance, this man felt familiar. Gentle Snow? Why is she here? Is Ouroboros the guild selling the materials? Feng was somewhat surprised when he saw Gentle Snow walking towards him. Could something big have happened to the guild? With Ouroboros' financial strength, the guild shouldn't need to do something so damaging to gather funds. As Gentle Snow stopped before Feng and the middle-aged man was about to introduce her, 6 tall, burly men radiating hostility cut past Gentle Snow's group and surrounded Feng. "Oh, Guild Leader Snow, I'm sorry, but the Blackwater Corporation has some business with this gentleman. Would you give us a moment?" The leading level 39 berserker named Lethal Gale subtly demanded, smiling coldly. Chapter 972 Test of Strength. Chapter 972 Test of Strength. As Gentle Snow was pushed aside, the middle-aged man quickly stepped forward to speak up. However, before he could do so, Lethal Gale shot him a penetrating glare. With the one look, the middle-aged man froze. Even though the middle-aged man knew that players wouldn't dare attack another in a place like this, Lethal Gale's sharp gaze had left him petrified. The dense killing intent within that gaze felt as if a blade had been pressed against the middle-aged man's throat, and if he moved, his head would leave his body. This is killing intent. Gentle Snow could also feel the frightening pressure that Lethal Gale exuded, and she could not help but stare at the berserker. To put it simply, killing intent was a kind of mental suppression. Although killing intent couldn't be seen or touched, the human mind could sense the threat of danger. As a person could not perceive the danger with their 5 senses, the mind employed a self-preservation mechanism, halting the body from making any sudden movements. It was the same mechanism that was responsible for small animals freezing when surprised. There was a saying in the real world that looks could kill. Although it sounded like a joke, a person's gaze could indeed transmit certain signals. Take wild animals for example. When 2 wild animals faced off against one another, if one of the wild animals received a ferocious glare from the other, the former would hesitate. Wild animals were born with much keener senses than humans, so they could pick up on these signals easier. Normally, it was very difficult for ordinary players. However, for experts who had experienced many life or death situations, their will and instincts had already been hardened and sharpened. Hence, they could transmit more powerful signals, which even ordinary people could pick up on. Lethal Gale was one such expert. Update by Novelful. Calm, however, Gentle Snow had not focused on Lethal Gale due to his killing intent, but rather because his was somewhat different from other gaming experts. His killing intent was much colder and sharper. Unlike the killing intent other experts radiated, which only served as a warning signal, the killing intent Gentle Snow felt from Lethal Gale showed that the berserker truly wanted to murder his target. More importantly, the berserker wore a calm and natural expression while he radiated such killing intent. The fact that Lethal Gale could do this told her that his hands were stained with real-world blood. One should always act on a first-come, first-served basis. Do the Blackwater Corporation's people not respect this rule? Gentle Snow asked as she pulled her subordinate away and glanced at Lethal Gale. Sneering, she continued, "Or do you need me to teach you a lesson in manners?" Although Gentle Snow's tone was soft, and not particularly loud, everyone who heard her trembled involuntarily. It seems the rumored snow goddess isn't just a pushover. Lethal Gale thought, surprised by Gentle Snow's aura. In his eyes, virtual gaming experts did not know what it truly meant to fight and kill. These people were nothing to them, people who had seen hell and walked the boundaries of life and death. However, the aura Gentle Snow radiated showed that she was not one bit weaker than him. He had not expected this revelation. Sure. Since Guild Leader Snow made the offer, I'm interested to see just how tough you really are. If you can defeat me, my men and I will leave. If I win, however, you will have to wait for us to finish our chat with this gentleman. Although Gentle Snow's aura had surprised him, that was all. In an actual fight, one could only rely on their own skill. He refused to believe that his skills, which he had honed in true battle, would lose to someone like Gentle Snow, was all style and no substance. Moreover, if he beat Gentle Snow, Abandoned Wave would have an easier time taking over Ouroboros. Lethal Gale's companions wore mocking smiles as they watched Gentle Snow. He was absurdly strong. He had even defeated a famous expert from the Dark Knight Empire, who ranked 354th on the God's Domain experts list. As for Gentle Snow, in the latest update of the experts list, she only ranked within the top 900. Defeating her would be a piece of cake for Lethal Gale. Okay, I want to see just what kind of experts the Blackwater Corporation has nurtured, Gentle Snow said. She then turned to Feng, and in an apologetic tone she said, Excuse me, sir, but will you wait for a little while longer? I'll finish this match very quickly. We can proceed with the trade once I'm done. Blackwater's people had not initially been looking to cause Feng any trouble. It was only because of her that these ruffians had done so. Hence, it was only right that she deal with this matter. Trying his best to hold back a chuckle, Feng said in a deep tone. It's fine. I am more than happy to watch a good show. He had to admit that the black cloak was an excellent item for hiding one's identity. Even as he stood before Gentle Snow, she didn't recognize him at all. Right now, all she could discern was his gender. In reality, Feng could have revealed his identity and put an end to this match. However, he was curious to see how strong Gentle Snow was. Both Gentle Snow and Lethal Gale were level 39 berserkers. Both wore equipment of similar standards, with both wearing level 40 dark gold equipment. It was obvious that they both possessed top-tier equipment that could reduce item level requirements. Their weapons were the only difference between them. Although Feng did not know the quality of Gentle Snow's silver greatsword, seeing the greatsword gather traces of mana from the area, it was definitely stronger than a dark gold weapon. On the other hand, Lethal Gale's greatsword was slightly weaker. Even so, it was a top-tier dark gold weapon. With almost a negligible difference between them, this match would come down to their combat techniques. Feng had already been observing Lethal Gale. Although he was a berserker, a class famed for violence, his actions felt light and gentle. It was obvious that his physical control had already reached a very high standard. It was highly possible that he had reached the Refinement Realm. Refinement Realm experts were considered apex experts in first-rate guilds. After all, unless one had the benefit of a simulation training system or some miracle, it was extremely difficult to reach the Refinement Realm. Hence, it was quite impressive if a first-rate guild had a few such experts. As for experts of higher combat standards, that depended on luck. It was similar to some unrated guilds' luck as they saw a Refinement Realm expert arise from among their members. Unfortunately, the probability of such at this stage of the game was extremely small unless the player was also an extremely powerful martial artist in the real world. As for Gentle Snow, Feng did not notice any sign that she had reached the Refinement Realm. In that case, where was her confidence coming from? Of course, it was also possible that Gentle Snow intentionally hid the subtle signs. If so, even Feng would not be able to determine her combat standard. He could only confirm his doubts by watching an intense battle. Once Gentle Snow agreed to the match, they all headed for the Divine Coliseum above White River City. Hellscythe _Hellscythe_. Chapter 973 Match of the Century. Chapter 973 Match of the Century. Hellscythe _Fluffy Goblin. Inside the Divine Coliseum, players came and went. It was even more lively than White River City's auction house. The Divine Coliseum had become the most populated location in the city. Sitting along the rest bar, many players chatted as they watched battle videos on the screens hovering in the main hall. The drinks here are awesome. It's a pity that they're so expensive. Unlike everywhere else, where we can pay with copper and silver coins, can only buy drinks here with magic crystals or the points we accumulated in the Divine Battlefield. Each bottle costs 100 points. I need to win at least 3 team battles to earn that many. I'll never afford more drinks at this rate. That's nothing. A few days ago, someone spent 3,000 battle points to buy 1 bottle of Ice Fire Spirit. I heard that not only is it calming, but its effects last for 5 hours. Its calming effects are far better than the Trial Towers. It also tastes magnificent. What? I could drink for half a month with 3,000 points. The Ice Fire Spirit isn't the best alcohol available. I heard that if one reached the Trial Tower's 8th floor, they can purchase the Witch's Tear. One costs 5,000 points. Some time ago, I heard that a player from another kingdom bought one. I wonder what it tastes like. Stop dreaming. Only God's Domain's Apex experts can reach the 8th floor. Getting past the 4th floor is difficult enough for us, much less the 8th floor. As the Divine Coliseum became a larger factor in players' lives, players grew stronger. Players also used the Trial Tower's results as a way to judge someone's true abilities. As for tycoons who used their equipment to suppress others, they weren't experts, just rich. Hence, guilds and independent teams now recruited members using the Trial Tower's results as a benchmark. Players who could reach the 5th floor were considered ordinary experts. Players who reached the 6th floor, even in a large guild, were experts of the next level. Players who could reach the 7th floor were of the more powerful experts, even in first-rate guilds. As for those who managed to reach the second half of the 7th floor, they were top-ranking experts in a first-rate guild. One would be hard-pressed to find players in a first-rate guild who could reach the 8th floor. While the players in the main hall chatted amongst themselves, Lethal Gale and the others, who had just arrived, immediately attracted everyone's attention. People in their way moved aside as they felt these players' shocking aura. Shortly after, however, everyone noticed Gentle Snow. Her saint-like beauty even enthralled a few new players. That beauty is hot! Damn, is this your first day playing a virtual reality game? You don't even know about the Snow Goddess? She is the guild leader of the first-rate guild Ouroboros. Be careful with what you say. I heard that many wealthy young masters have tried to harass her in the past. In the end, these people had been killed to level 0 and forced to delete their accounts and start all over. Hearing the veteran player's story, the players new to White River City shut their mouths immediately. To them, even joining a third-rate guild would earn them bragging rights among their friends for days. They looked up to players in first-rate guilds. They were also aware of the massive differences between third-rate and first-rate guilds. In the current God's Domain, unrated guilds were forced to develop in smaller NPC towns. There was no place for a small guild in a city. Only those acknowledged as third-rate guilds barely survived in NPC cities. Meanwhile, first-rate guilds ruled over several, or even over a dozen, major cities. With a word from Gentle Snow, other guild leaders would make their lives hell in God's Domain without hesitation. With their standards, their only option would be to start a new account. What are they trying to do? Why is Ouroboros' guild leader in White River City's Divine Coliseum? Huh! That man, Lethal Gale, recently defeated the 354th ranked expert from the God's Domain's experts list. I heard that he even broke the Trial Tower's record in Hot Sand City and reached the 8th floor. Why is he here? Can this be? When everyone saw Lethal Gale and Gentle Snow enter the same combat room, the main hall fell silent. They couldn't help but stare at the combat room's closed door, their skin breaking out in goosebumps. An 8th floor expert was going to fight Ouroboros' guild leader. I need to notify my team leader and the others. This is the match of the century. Hopefully, they'll broadcast the fight. I'll even be willing to pay for this show. Look! They didn't turn private mode on. We can watch the battle on the main screen. Hurry, select this battle. Pandemonium swept through the main hall. Every player quickly called up the Divine Colosseum's system interface and clicked to watch Gentle Snow's battle against Lethal Gale. In the Divine Colosseum, the videos on the main hall screens depended on the number of viewers. If enough players wanted to watch the fight, the system would automatically display said fight on the main screen. Following which, everyone in the main hall stared the main screen in rapture. At the same time, many players fervently contacted their companions and guilds, telling everyone they knew about this shocking development. Before the battle between Gentle Snow and Lethal Gale began, news of their fight had spread throughout Starmoon Kingdom. The guild leaders and upper echelons of the kingdom's various guilds received the news at almost the same time. Has Gentle Snow lost her mind? She agreed to such a challenge? The Star Alliance's Purple Eye was surprised when she heard the news. Lethal Gale is a refinement realm expert. Although Gentle Snow is strong, she had only reached the half-step refinement realm. Doesn't she care about Ouroboros' reputation anymore? Purple Eye knew just how powerful refinement realm experts were from her experience in the Secret Pavilion's simulation training system. Although there only appeared to be a thin line separating a half-step refinement realm expert from a true refinement realm expert, with equal levels and equipment, the disparity between their strengths was like the difference between heaven and earth. Although Gentle Snow had a slight advantage with her equipment due to her status as the leader of a first-rate guild, she could never close the gap with such a small lead in attributes. No, she is no fool. I also heard about Blackwater purchasing Ouroboros. From what I learned from the Secret Pavilion, that Lethal Gale fellow is an expert that Blackwater has secretly nurtured. Galaxy Pass said, chuckling. A realization struck Purple Eye. This was no longer a simple competition of strength. It was a competition between Ouroboros and the Blackwater Corporation. Both of their reputations were on the line. Purple, notify our people in White River City immediately and have them record the battle. We must not miss this opportunity. Galaxy Pass commanded. Other guilds also burst into action. Gentle Snow and Lethal Gale's battle had attracted the attention of Starmoon Kingdom's various large guilds. Chapter 974 War Goddess. Chapter 974 War Goddess. Hellscythe _ Vampire Cat. Chapter 974 War Goddess. A bald, robust man suddenly burst into an exquisitely decorated room, tension written all over his face. Boss Wave, something has happened with Gale. The bald man reported hurriedly. Raising his brows, Abandoned Wave asked. What happened? I don't know what Gale was thinking, but he's about to duel Gentle Snow. News of the fight has already spread throughout the kingdom, the bald man said. Gale is dueling Gentle Snow? The news surprised Abandoned Wave somewhat. A moment later, however, he started laughing before he said, Good, very good. Gale's performance this time is excellent. Who would have imagined that, just as I was struggling to think of a way to take over Ouroboros, Gentle Snow delivered herself to my doorstep. Send someone immediately to live-stream Gale's battle. I want to see the look of despair on Gentle Snow's face. Although he was not certain of Gentle Snow's true strength, he knew how powerful Lethal Gale was. It was common knowledge that, although Lethal Gale had beaten the 354th ranked expert on the God's Domain experts list, it had been a hard-fought battle. Hence, in the public's opinion, that must have been the limit to Lethal Gale's strength. U.P. Dated by Novelful. Calm in reality, however, Lethal Gale had held back. After all, he was a member of the battle team that the Blackwater Corporation was nurturing. How could he afford to expose his true strength to the public? He needed to save that trump card to deal other battle teams a critical blow. Although Abandoned Wave had no idea how much strength Gentle Snow had hidden, she was 100 years too early if she thought she could defeat Lethal Gale. Inside White River City's Divine Colosseum, every player in the main hall watched the main screen as if hypnotized. It's finally starting. Sitting at a corner of the rest bar, Feng looked at the timer displayed on the screen, his heart thumping with anticipation. In the past, the strength Gentle Snow displayed during the early stages of the game had been extremely frightening. Many experts had considered her disappearance from God's domain a shame, as they all believed that she had the potential to become a Tier 6 God-ranked player. Her abilities were clear for all to see just from how she had managed to nurture the cleric god Violet Cloud. The main screen currently displayed a dense forest, which was the perfect environment for assassins and rangers. However, it was an entirely different story for berserkers. Berserkers were the epitome of strength. The berserker class was a class that solved all problems with overwhelming strength. Unlike a duel between other classes, the one between Gentle Snow and Lethal Gale would undoubtedly be a short battle. Either Gentle Snow would quickly defeat Lethal Gale, or the other way around. There was no third possibility. Hence, everyone in the main hall paid close attention to the screen, afraid of missing out on any details of the battle. Let me properly experience the strength of Ouroboros as guild leader. Hopefully, you won't disappoint me too much. As soon as Lethal Gale let out a low shout, a bone-chilling glint flashed across his eyes as he unsheathed the gigantic greatsword slung over his back and entered a fighting stance. However, contrary to everyone's expectations, he did not use charge straight away and rush at Gentle Snow. Instead, he slowly closed in on the female berserker step by step. However, with each step Lethal Gale took, the surrounding air grew heavier. Even the players watching in the main hall could feel the frightening pressure the male berserker radiated. As for Gentle Snow, she unsheathed her silver great sword and pointed it directly at the approaching Lethal Gale. Her actions were as if victory was already in her grasp. Her calm appearance made her look just like the war goddess of a battlefield. When only 12 yards separated the two berserkers, everyone suddenly saw a shocking scene. Gentle Snow's entire body started releasing a silver glow. In the next moment, 3 pairs of silver metallic wings sprouted from her back. The equipment she wore also underwent a transformation. Her original silver armor turned into a set of pure white robes. In the blink of an eye, Gentle Snow had changed from a plate armor class to a cloth armor class. This sudden development made it seem as if an angel had suddenly descended onto the battlefield. In the next moment, golden divine runes manifested on her robes and even on her unblemished cheeks, adding a few hints of holiness to the war goddess. Meanwhile, the silver great sword in her hands had also transformed into 2 thin, sharp blades. Golden arcs of electricity were faintly visible, wrapping around the blades of the one-handed swords. Before anyone even reacted, Gentle Snow dashed straight towards Lethal Gale. What? What just happened? Is she really a berserker? Gentle Snow's sudden transfiguration riveted everyone in the main hall. None of them had expected her to undergo such a change. She's so fast. At this moment, even Feng was surprised. He had never imagined that Gentle Snow had hidden her strength so deeply. Gentle Snow's current speed was already above his. Watching through the large screen, everyone only saw Gentle Snow leaving behind an afterimage in her original position before appearing right before Lethal Gale. Ha! Come! Lethal Gale laughed as he activated his berserk skill, Beastification, his skin suddenly turning a deep red. Both his strength and speed also soared. Immediately he sent a cross slash at Gentle Snow. In response, Gentle Snow swung the sword in her right hand, the blade transforming into an arc of light as it struck at Lethal Gale's great sword. What a fool! Gale has already activated Beastification. Although the skill's duration is very short, it increases his strength attribute by 120%. In addition, Cross Slash is a Tier 1 sure kill skill. Even Great Lords won't be able to block this attack, yet Gentle Snow actually dares to receive it directly? Could she have abandoned herself to despair because of losing Ouroboros? Abandoned Wave's lips curled into a smile as he watched Gentle Snow's actions. He could already see the scene of Lethal Gale heavily injuring the female berserker. Has Gentle Snow really lost her mind? She actually made such a rash counter. Purple Eye looked at Gentle Snow with eyes filled with worry. Gentle Snow was a rival of hers. She did not wish to see her losing to anyone but herself. At this moment, Purple Eye was wondering whether Gentle Snow truly understood just how powerful a refinement realm expert, who had activated a berserk skill, was. As for Feng, he simply chuckled at this scene. Among everyone present in the Divine Colosseum, most likely nobody, aside from himself, knew what kind of state Gentle Snow was in at present. If one were to say that Lethal Gale was in a berserk mode right now, then the current Gentle Snow was in a twofold berserk mode. The reason for Gentle Snow's transfiguration was her obtaining the Holy Warrior class, one of the 5 great legacies of Starmoon Kingdom. The 5 great legacies of Starmoon Kingdom. Not to mention completing them, just being able to accept the quest for these legacies showed that one was a favored child of the main god system. In the past, only Gentle Snow and the entire Starmoon Kingdom had managed to complete this quest. Feng had never imagined that she would actually succeed in class-changing into a holy warrior ahead of time. The 5 great legacies were all peak legacies. The legacy skills that Gentle Snow learned were naturally extraordinary. At this moment, the skill that Gentle Snow had used was one unique to the Holy Warrior class, the Legacy Berserk skill Starlight Saint. Not only did the skill increase her attributes significantly, but it also altered the external appearances of her weapons and equipment at the same time. Currently, although it might seem as though Gentle Snow was equipped in cloth armor, in reality, it was holy armor. The soft, white robes she was wearing were tougher than even adamantite. The defensive capabilities of those robes far surpassed those of plate armor. Chapter 975 Taboo Skill Life Return. Chapter 975 Taboo Skill Life Return. Hellscythe_Vampire Cat. Chapter 975 Taboo Skill Life Return. Although twofold Berserk could give players the strength to combat existences of a higher tier, it also had a glaring weakness. Legacy Berserk skills all shared the same problem. And that was the side effects. Unlike ordinary Berserk skills, all Legacy Berserk skills would place its user into a weakened state once their durations ended. Moreover, the duration of twofold Berserk was very short. Even Feng, who possessed one of the 10 great saint legacies, could maintain it for only 20 seconds. Once twofold Berserk ended, he would fall into a weakened state for several hours. However, it was also precisely because of such a drawback that the system allowed the use of twofold Berserk. Based on Feng's estimates, Gentle Snow's Starlight Saint should have a shorter duration than his Blade Liberation. If she could not finish off Lethal Gale within this period, once her Berserk skill ended, she would lose without a doubt. One could say that Gentle Snow was taking a gamble. Boom! The collision of the two weapons created a shockwave. The ground under both fighters instantly collapsed as the clear sound of metal clashing against metal echoed throughout the surrounding forest. Pun! Half a second later, Lethal Blade's entire person went flying out of the crater, his body breaking several large trees before slamming heavily into the ground. His HP instantly decreased by over -1,800 as well. The difference in strength between both sides was clear for all to see. Flew! He flew! How is she so strong? Is this the guild leader of Ouroboros? This scene staggered everyone inside the main hall. The players who had previously entertained unscrupulous thoughts about Gentle Snow now had shivers running down their backs. Lethal Gale, who had defeated the 354th ranker on the God's Domain experts list, actually got sent flying with a single hit. If it were them in the male berserker's place, they would have gotten killed instantly by Gentle Snow's lightning-quick attack. Gentle Snow! Abandoned Wave's countenance turned grim when he saw Lethal Gale repulsed. To him, Lethal Gale losing in a contest of strength even after activating beastification was simply inconceivable. This was equivalent to Gentle Snow sending a great lord of the same level flying. How is her strength so high? After standing back up, Lethal Gale looked at the rapidly approaching war goddess in shock. After activating beastification, his strength attribute could already rival that of a great lord of the same level. Coupling it with his cross slash, even a great lord would be pushed back, not to mention a player. Despite that, Gentle Snow had managed to send him flying with a single strike, without using any skills. His mind just could not figure out how this was possible. However, Lethal Gale did not have the luxury of pondering this. If he did not cope with Gentle Snow's next attack properly, he might very well lose directly. In a flash, Gentle Snow appeared before Lethal Gale once again. This time, he no longer dared to clash weapons with the female berserker. Instead, he chose to take a large step backwards before defending himself with his great sword. Pun! Lethal Gale was forced back once more. This time, however, he only received -400 damage or so. Moreover, the impact of the attack allowed him to pull away from Gentle Snow. Suddenly, a cat-and-mouse game commenced on the battlefield. Every time the two fighters clashed, Lethal Gale would manage to buy himself some time by sacrificing a small amount of HP. Lethal Gale was no fool. He knew that Gentle Snow's current equipment was only slightly better than his. The fact that there was still such a huge disparity between them pointed to just one thing: a difference in skills. God's domain was fair in all things. Such a powerful skill definitely could not have a very long duration. Hence, all he needed to do right now was drag out the battle. If he managed to last until Gentle Snow's skill ended, victory would be his. He could tell that Gentle Snow had yet to reach the refinement realm and was only at the half-step refinement realm. She did not possess perfect control over her own body. Moreover, she was clearly not used to this sudden increase in power, since she would expose plenty of weaknesses when she attacked. This was the reason why he could deflect the trajectory of her attacks, dampening the collision of the attacks significantly, and taking only a small amount of damage each time. This Lethal Gale fellow really is something. Feng was slightly surprised when he looked at Lethal Gale successfully deflecting Gentle Snow's attacks one after another. Rather than the refinement realm, the combat standard the male berserker was displaying right now already approached the flowing water realm. One could say that he had reached the half-step flowing water realm. Players at the refinement realm would have precise control over their own bodies. Even in high-speed combat, they would be capable of impromptu changes. However, just having such a combat standard would not be enough for one to deflect Gentle Snow's attacks. One also needed to understand the Holy Warrior's every action and predict her attack trajectories in advance. Only with this would one be able to keep up with Gentle Snow's superior attack speed and turn aside her attacks. Although it sounded straightforward, experts at the refinement realm would find such a feat extremely difficult to achieve. Had Gentle Snow not activated twofold Berserk, she really wouldn't have any chance of victory against Lethal Gale. The seconds ticked by quickly. 10 seconds after the battle began, over half of the terrain of the combat room lay ravaged. At this moment, Lethal Gale was in a very miserable state, and only a quarter of his HP remained. Gentle Snow would need just a few more seconds to defeat the male berserker. U.P. Dated by Novelful. Com. I have to admit, you are by far the strongest opponent I have faced in battle since I entered God's domain. However, I believe your skill's duration should be almost up. Originally, I did not intend to use this move. However, I acknowledge that your strength indeed deserves my going all out, Lethal Gale said excitedly. Lethal Gale's HP began recovering rapidly. At the same time, the aura he exuded also strengthened apace. Not good. That's the Tier 1 Taboo skill Life Return. Feng immediately recognized the skill Lethal Gale used when he noticed a green mist circling the male berserker's body along with his growing aura. As a Tier 1 Taboo skill, Life Return was very powerful. When activated, the skill completely recovered its user's HP within a short period. Moreover, the more HP the user lost previously, the more bonus strength and agility attributes the user would gain, up to a maximum of 600 strength and 600 agility. 600 strength was practically equal to the total strength of a well-equipped level 40 berserker. With such a massive increase in strength, even if Lethal Gale's strength attribute was still not a match for Gentle Snow's, there would no longer be such a great disparity as before. With Lethal Gale's standards, it would be enough for him to defeat Gentle Snow. To make matters worse, Gentle Snow's twofold Berserk was already nearing its end. Ha! Gentle Snow, I admit that you are amazing. Unfortunately, You chose the wrong opponent to go up against. Abandoned Wave could not help but guffaw when he saw the gloomy expression on Gentle Snow's face. Although Lethal Blade had used his final trump card, which would probably impact his future performance in the Dark Arena, being able to thoroughly defeat Gentle Snow now was also a good thing. Immediately, Lethal Gale used Charge and took the initiative to dash towards Gentle Snow. Chapter 976 Sudden Kill. Chapter 976 Sudden Kill. Hellscythe_Vampire Cat. Chapter 976 Sudden Kill. After using the Taboo skill, Lethal Gale's attributes and speed both increased by a large margin. With the inclusion of the speed boost from Charge, everyone only saw the male berserker leaving behind an afterimage as he crossed over a dozen yards and arrived before Gentle Snow instantly. Die! Lethal Gale shouted, a bloodthirsty glint flashing across his eyes. Without even waiting for the fainted effect of his charge to settle in, he raised his great sword and used Beheaded. Although he took less than a breath's time to complete this entire process, Gentle Snow still managed to activate a control removal skill and counter the male berserker's attack with Chop. Boom! Dazzling sparks flew as the clang of metal resounded throughout the entire forest. Unlike before, however, Lethal Gale was not sent airborne this time. Instead, he had to retreat just a single step. The impact of the collision also cost him only around 100 HP. To Lethal Gale, who had recovered back to full HP, this loss was barely a scratch. Although his attack had failed to finish off Gentle Snow, Lethal Gale did not mind one little bit. He had long since figured out how powerful Gentle Snow's current attributes were. This first attack of his was merely to gauge how much of a difference there remained between their strength attributes. In a quick follow-up to his attack, Lethal Gale's body flashed. Then he appeared beside Gentle Snow and abruptly swung his great sword upwards, the massive weapon slashing straight at her blind spot. U.P. Dated by Novelful. Calm as Gentle Snow was still unaccustomed to her greater strength, the clash with Lethal Gale had thrown her stance off. Hence, her defense was full of holes right now. Had Gentle Snow reached the refinement realm, even with the suddenness of the increase in strength, she would have been able to control it skillfully. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Lethal Gale's great sword suddenly split into 4 afterimages, each one striking at one of Gentle Snow's weak points. Caught off guard, Gentle Snow no longer had the time to adjust her stance to defend against Lethal Gale's attacks. In the end, she forcefully used Whirlwind Slash. In the next moment, a silver whirlwind suddenly formed around her. When the 4 afterimages of Lethal Gale's greatsword collided against the silver whirlwind, they immediately got dispelled into nothingness. Meanwhile, Lethal Gale himself had to take a step back, giving Gentle Snow a chance to catch a breather. What a terrifying expert! After Gentle Snow retreated to a safe distance, she could not help breaking out in a cold sweat when she thought back to Lethal Gale's previous attack. The difference between their combat standards was clear for all to see. Despite her advantage in strength, Lethal Gale always managed to maintain his stance after receiving her attacks. Moreover, even after his attributes had increased significantly, he was still able to receive all her attacks without fail, as well as launch attacks from various positions. On the other hand, it was taking her all just to handle her sudden increase in strength, which made it very difficult to maintain her stance after a direct clash. Unlike ordinary computer games, fights in virtual reality games were no different from fights in the real world. In many cases, an attack that one could easily block while in a proper stance would become very difficult to handle if one lost their stance. This was true even with a very normal attack. Fights between experts were all high-speed battles. Deciding the outcome took only an instant. Losing one's stance in battle was a fatal matter. Although Gentle Snow had repelled Lethal Gale, the latter had no intention of letting up on his attacks. He immediately charged at her once more and let loose a barrage of violent strikes. In the main hall, all anyone could see between the clashes of Gentle Snow's one-handed swords and Lethal Gale's greatsword were afterimages. Is this a battle between true experts? For a time, the players in the main hall even stopped blinking, afraid that they would miss out on the moment where victory and defeat were decided. If it were any other player going up against either of the two fighters right now, most likely, they would have already fallen numerous times to either Gentle Snow's or Lethal Gale's attacks before they could even react. Inside the combat room, although Gentle Snow seemed to hold the advantage in both speed and strength, in reality, she was actually at a disadvantage. In order to maintain her combat stance, Gentle Snow kept having to retreat. Otherwise, she would create an opening that Lethal Gale could exploit. The seconds ticked by slowly. When Lethal Gale noticed the 3 pairs of silver metallic wings behind Gentle Snow starting to fade away, one after another, a triumphant smile appeared on his face. At this moment, he could sense that her strength and speed were both starting to wane. "Will I be able to make it?" Gentle Snow looked at the last remaining pair of wings on her back. The outcome of this battle was already plenty obvious. With Lethal Gale's combat techniques, even if she did not enter a weakened state after Starlight Saint ended, she would still end up losing the battle. However, she was not willing to simply give up. From the moment Lethal Gale activated the Tier 1 Taboo skill Life Return, she already knew just how powerful the Berserker was. The only reason she had fought desperately up until this point was for this final strike. When the 3 pairs of metallic wings generated by Starlight Saint started disappearing, it was not a warning to the user that their bonus attributes were about to expire. Instead, the moment all 3 pairs of wings disappeared, the skill would at last display its true power, releasing its final brilliance. However, this final power only lasted for one attack. If Lethal Gale managed to deflect or dodge her attack, her fate would be sealed. Hence, if Gentle Snow wanted to win, she needed to stay calm like never before. She needed far more precise control over her own body. She also had to push her mental concentration to its very limits. Thus, when her wings began fading, Gentle Snow had deliberately repressed her own strength to the point where she could control it perfectly. Meanwhile, from Lethal Gale's perspective, it seemed as if Gentle Snow's strength was continuously deteriorating. Upon seeing the final pair of metallic wings disappear, Lethal Gale immediately used the Tier 1 skill Energy Slash. Energy Slash not only increased the power of an attack but also extended the attack range by 5 yards. 6 ultimate flashes! Gentle Snow, on the other hand, had forsaken all her excess power and concentrated the remainder into one final attack. The collision of swords and greatsword generated a blinding glare, followed by a thundering boom. Pung! 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 As the glare dissipated, the shrill of metallic armor being pierced echoed throughout the entire forest, as well as the entire main hall of the Divine Colosseum. 5 penetrating cuts appeared on Lethal Gale's armor. His HP had also instantly fallen to 0. As for the victor of this battle, Gentle Snow, her complexion looked somewhat pale right now. The extraordinary concentration she displayed at the final moment depleted her mental strength, so much so that she was on the brink of collapse. With the side effects of the Starlight Saint kicking in, she appeared extremely frail. The players in the main hall of the Divine Colosseum, however, clamored at this scene. "It's over? What happened in that instant? I didn't even manage to see anything. Gentle Snow won, just like that? This is a lie, right? All hail the goddess!" Everyone simply could not figure out what had happened in that final moment. Lethal Gale clearly had the upper hand just then and was about to finish her off, yet such a shocking reversal had actually taken place. The tables had turned so suddenly that even Lethal Gale himself did not know how she had defeated him. With the end of the duel, Gentle Snow and Lethal Gale both walked out of the combat room. Due to their previous agreement, even if Lethal Gale was reluctant, he no longer had the face to look for trouble with Feng at the moment. He could only watch as Gentle Snow slowly walked over to Feng. Defeated? Gale was actually defeated? He even lost while every guild in Starmoon Kingdom was watching? When Abandoned Wave saw the outcome of the match, he threw the bottle of Witch's Tear, which was worth 5,000 battle points, to the floor. Immediately notify Gale and the others. Since they've embarrassed the Blackwater Corporation, they need to make up for their actions. Have them think of a way to get rid of Gentle Snow within White River City. Currently, Gentle Snow's complexion was pale, and she looked extremely weak. She was clearly suffering the backlash of using that powerful skill from before. With her in such a weak state, even with the deterrence of the city guards, killing her would be child's play for Lethal Gale's party of 6. As long as the Blackwater Corporation killed Gentle Snow inside White River City, they would be able to regain the reputation they lost before in one fell swoop. As for Lethal Gale's party members getting jailed by the NPC guards, that was irrelevant to Abandoned Wave. Understood. Lethal Gale accepted to the instructions he received without hesitation. A cold glint flashed across his eyes as he shifted his gaze towards Feng and Gentle Snow, who were chatting with each other. Chapter 977 Feng Takes Action. Chapter 977 Feng Takes Action. Hellscythe _Fluffy Goblin. Following the Gentle Snow's battle, the players throughout Star Moon Kingdom were in an uproar. Gentle Snow's valiant and heroic bearing captivated many male players, all of which considered applying for Ouroboros to get closer to the Snow Goddess. She won, just like that? Purple Eye was stunned as she watched Gentle Snow's victory on the screen. With only a small difference in attributes, Gentle Snow had actually defeated a Refinement Realm expert. It seems the Blackwater Corporation has greatly embarrassed itself this time. If the news of Blackwater chasing Gentle Snow away in order to annex Ouroboros spreads, it will be very hard for Blackwater to mingle in Star Moon Kingdom. Although Gentle Snow is an enemy, I have to thank her. The strength Gentle Snow had displayed had also surprised Galaxy Past. Things will be more interesting in the kingdom for a time. Ouroboros and the Star Alliance were old rivals. Galaxy Past had initially thought that Chao Chinghua's mutiny would have been the straw that broke the camel's back, allowing the Star Alliance to surpass Ouroboros once and for all. Yet, due to Ouroboros' alliance with Zero Wing, not only did the Star Alliance fail to surpass Ouroboros, but it had also been left in the dust. With the Blackwater Corporation purchasing Ouroboros, he had not expected Gentle Snow to make such a daring play. It might be possible that they would see a new Ouroboros emerge sometime soon. Star Moon Kingdom was more lively than ever. Aside from the Blackwater Corporation, the recently flourishing Heaven's Burial showed faint signs of stealing the position of Star Moon City's #1 guild. If not for the Star Alliance having agreed to the Secret Pavilion's investment, surviving in Star Moon City would have been impossible. Boss Gale, are we going to attack here? A level 39 ranger beside Lethal Gale asked worriedly as he surveyed their surroundings. Even the weakest NPC guards in the Divine Coliseum were level 200, Tier 2 classes, not to mention the roaming Tier 3 NPCs. If they made a move among so many NPC guards, these NPCs would kill them instantly. Although someone had successfully killed one of King's Return's upper echelons in the Divine Coliseum, not just anyone could replicate that. Even now, that person was a legend among players and had the nickname Frost Eye. Quite a few super guilds had attempted to contact this Frost Eye to hire him to assassinate other major powers' upper echelons. God's Domain's super guilds had no lack of experts. Theoretically, they should be capable of dispatching their own men for such assassinations, yet in the end, they wanted to hire Frost Eye. Why? It was precisely because these super guilds weren't capable of doing so, which was why they were willing to pay such a high price. Although they, Blackwater's people, were experts, they could not contend with God's Domain's apex experts. If they attempted to kill another player in the Divine Coliseum, there was over an 80% chance that the guards would kill them before they could finish off Gentle Snow. We can't make a move here. Fortunately, it won't be too late for us to take care of her after they leave the Divine Coliseum. Lethal Gale immediately dismissed the notion of attacking now after noticing the party of guards stationed a short distance away from Gentle Snow. When we strike later, Stone and Tooth, you two coordinate with me to take Gentle Snow down. The rest will hold the NPCs off as long as possible. With Gentle Snow's current state, the three of us should be able to finish her off in 1 or 2 moves. Lethal Gale's party members nodded. They then began to simulate the assassination in their minds. Stone and Shattered Tooth were both level 39 assassins. The assassin class specialized in ambush. If an assassin successfully ambushed a berserker, there was over a 60% chance that said berserker would lose over half of their HP instantly. If two assassins worked together, a berserker of the same level would die instantly. With this lineup and a berserker like Lethal Gale acting as a distraction, Gentle Snow's fate was sealed. Furthermore, both Stone and Shattered Tooth were relatively powerful assassins, even in the Blackwater Corporation. Both had already reached the refinement realm. Only, they had slightly fewer achievements than Lethal Gale. They could even defeat Gentle Snow in a one-on-one fight if they had the same weakened attributes that she did right now. Killing Gentle Snow would be child's play if these three worked together. Guild Leader Snow is as amazing as expected. I had not expected you to reveal such a trump card in the end. Lethal Gale has defeated the 354th ranking expert on God's Domain's experts list. With this, your rank will rise significantly. Feng praised the woman as he watched the snow goddess approach. Now, he more or less understood why so many experts had suffered defeat against Gentle Snow in the past. Others might not have seen what had happened in that last moment, but he had. In the final moment, Gentle Snow displayed the physical control of a refinement realm expert. Hence, she had managed to control the 6 vicious sword strikes perfectly, finishing Lethal Gale off. Otherwise, with Lethal Gale's skills, he would have been dodged at least half of the strikes. Had that happened, the battle's victor would have been rewritten. Gentle Snow had only joined God's Domain a short time ago. Moreover, she even had to manage the massive guild that was Ouroboros. Yet, without any guidance, Gentle Snow had reached the refinement realm. She was devilishly talented. Feng had only reached his current realm after experiencing 10 years of fights in God's Domain, and the many miraculous encounters he had chanced upon. Even Violet Cloud, whom he had taught carefully, had only recently reached the refinement realm. Meanwhile, Aqua Rose still had not done so. I was just lucky. Gentle Snow shook her head. There was not a hint of joy on her face. Rather, more worry than before gripped her heart. The Blackwater Corporation had yet to join God's Domain officially, yet it had already dispatched an expert like Lethal Gale to take her out. Now that she had confirmed that the corporation would start its conquest in Star Moon Kingdom, it would not be as easy for her and her companions to start a new guild as she had expected. I assume that Guild Leader Snow hasn't sought me out just to trade the small stock of herbs and ores, right? Feng asked, chuckling. Indeed, as you say, I would like to discuss some other with you. However, this is not a place for such a conversation. Why don't we continue our chat in the high-class restaurant below? Gentle Snow nodded. She did not try to hide the reason for her visit. She had many more resources on hand that she could sell. Unfortunately, it was impossible to find someone who could afford so many resources in a short time. In her opinion, if Feng could afford her stock of herbs and ores, he should be able to purchase her other resources as well. Let's go, then. Feng agreed with Gentle Snow's sentiment. With so many eyes on them right now, this was an inappropriate place for their chat. Following which, as Feng and Gentle Snow left the Divine Colosseum, Lethal Gale's party followed closely behind. Although guards patrolled White River City streets, the patrols were sparse. Moreover, the city guards were much lower leveled than the Divine Colosseum's guards. Once they found an opportune moment, Lethal Gale's party approached Gentle Snow silently. As for Stone and Shattered Tooth, they had long since gone into stealth. When there were only 30 yards separating Lethal Gale and Gentle Snow, the former used charge. Guild Leader Snow, I am sorry for this, but you must die today, Lethal Gale sneered. He then executed cross-slash against the weakened female berserker. Simultaneously, 2 black figures appeared on either side of Gentle Snow, 4 snow-white daggers thrusting towards the female berserker's blind spots. Gentle Snow's expression darkened. She had not imagined that Lethal Gale would go to such insane lengths. The punishment for attacking another player in the city was no laughing matter. Unfortunately, even though Gentle Snow could see Lethal Gale rapidly approach, she could do nothing about it. In her weakened state, all her attributes had dropped by 80%. Moreover, the debuff lasted 5 hours. With only 20% of her attributes, she could not survive against lethal gale. Not to mention, she had just sensed 2 assassin experts. As the great sword and the 4 daggers were about to plunge into Gentle Snow's body, a low voice suddenly entered everyone's ears. The almighty Blackwater Corporation is really a sore loser. Are you in such a hurry to restore your wounded reputation? As his voice faded, 5 streaks of blue light surrounded Gentle Snow. Pun! 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 The clang of metal colliding echoed down the street 5 times. Lethal Gale and the 2 assassins were then thrown over 5 yards back. Who are you? You dare to stick your nose in Blackwater's business? Lethal Gale glared at the cloaked swordsman. However, his eyes contained a hint of fear. When experts fought, one clash was enough to gauge the opponent's strength. Lethal Gale could tell that the swordsman was stronger than him. The fact that the swordsman had repelled all 3 of their attacks told him that this man was more than an ordinary expert. Who am I? This is White River City. You dare to make a move in my territory and still ask who I am? Feng sneered as he glanced at Lethal Gale and the 2 assassins. Chuckling, he took off his black cloak. Feng! Gentle Snow was shocked when she saw who had hidden beneath the black cloak. Although the man had felt familiar, that did not help her to identify him. After all, he could be any random person she had met before. Now that she knew her mysterious buyer's identity, her previous questions had been answered. Who could possibly be richer than Zero Wing in Star Moon Kingdom? As so you're Zero Wing's Feng. This is between the Blackwater Corporation and Ouroboros. I advise you to stay out of it. If you don't, you will regret it. Lethal Gale's face twisted into an ugly expression when he heard this man's name. To the Dark Arena's participants, Feng was a familiar name. Even with Stone and Shattered Tooth's help, beating Feng was impossible. He had no choice but to use the Blackwater Corporation as a threat. With this, he might still have a chance to finish off Gentle Snow. Chapter 978 Great Trees Are Good for Shade. Chapter 978 Great Trees Are Good for Shade. After Lethal Gale's group launched their attack, a commotion erupted among the players on the street. Have they lost their minds? They are attacking someone in White River City. Are they not aware of the severe punishments for assaulting people inside a city? Amazing! Who are they? How long has it been since someone tried to kill another player in a Star Moon Kingdom city? The players stopped to watch the show. NPC cities were different from NPC towns. In cities, even if one only attacked another player, not killing them, the NPC guards would attack. Afterward, they would be imprisoned in the city's jail for 1 or 2 days. For successful murders, however, that punishment was more severe. Every second in God's domain counted for expert players and the various large guilds. If an expert player were imprisoned for several days, they would fall behind. Because of that, very few player attacks, beyond newbies to NPC cities, occurred. After issuing his threat, the Berserker's 3 other party members joined the ambush on Gentle Snow. Their task was one of no return. Moreover, the nearby NPC guards had discovered their transgression and were heading their way. If they could not kill Gentle Snow before these NPC guards arrived, it would be much harder to kill her later. I've already stated that this is Zero Wing's territory. Guild Leader Snow is an ally. Do you really believe that I'll just sit by while you kill my ally? Feng rolled his eyes at Lethal Gale. Or do you think you can use the Blackwater Corporation's name to frighten Zero Wing? Do you really intend to make Blackwater an enemy? Feng's response caught Lethal Gale off guard. Feng acted as if he had never heard of the Blackwater Corporation. However, time waited for no one. With no other choice, Lethal Gale ground his teeth as he growled in the party chat. I'll deal with Feng. Stone and Tooth, assist me. Everyone else, kill Gentle Snow as quickly as possible. Leave it to us, boss. We had just been a little careless. Stone and Shattered Tooth promptly used their vanish skills and circled to Feng's sides. The most powerful aspect about assassins was their ability to appear and disappear like ghosts to deal lethal blows to their enemy. Previously, they had focused on attacking Gentle Snow. Even after they had exposed themselves, they paid no attention to Feng, and this, in turn, gave the swordsman an opportunity to exploit. If they were in stealth, however, they were confident that even apex experts wouldn't detect their presence. "I'll create an opening for you. Don't worry about hitting me in the process." After Lethal Gale calmed himself, he lifted his great sword and charged towards Feng. He was very familiar with Stone and Shattered Tooth's strengths. He had also watched Feng's fight in the Dark Arena. In terms of combat techniques, he was weaker than Feng. However, live combat was different from a competition. Many factors could affect a battle's outcome. The cooperation of several experts, in particular, would raise their combat power exponentially. Even he would find himself in trouble when Stone and Shattered Tooth worked together. Their psychedelic footwork allowed them to move silent, only revealing themselves, barely, as they struck. Although Feng was strong, if two assassins that he could not perceive attacked him, his mental state would suffer an immense pressure. Even if he tried to ignore it, his subconscious would constantly search for the sudden appearance of enemies, and this would affect his focus. He could use this opportunity to kill Feng. If he killed both Ouroboros' guild leader and Zero Wings Yifeng, even if the NPC guards imprisoned him, the fight would be worth the loss. "Yifeng, you need to be careful. Those two assassins are strong," Gentle Snow warned the swordsman as Stone and Shattered Tooth disappeared. Although she was in a weakened state, her perception had not dulled. On the contrary, her duel with Lethal Gale had heightened her senses. Even so, she had only detected the two assassins after they had exposed themselves. As Gentle Snow finished speaking, Lethal Gale's 3 other party members moved into range and began to launch their ranged attacks. Over a dozen arrows and fireballs rushed at Gentle Snow, sealing her paths of retreat. If the Snow Goddess were at her peak, dodging and blocking these attacks wouldn't be difficult. She could even afford to be hit. However, with her attributes reduced by 80%, one of these players' normal attacks was unbearable. At the same time, Lethal Gale slashed at Feng with precise timing. "You dare to look down on the Blackwater Corporation? Do you really believe that you can protect Gentle Snow?" If Feng blocked his attack, the swordsman would not be able to protect Gentle Snow. On the other hand, if Feng defended Gentle Snow, the swordsman would receive his merciless blow. Moreover, he still had Stone and Shattered Tooth's assistance. If Feng slipped up, they could very well take his life in one fell swoop. Once the hindrance was gone, it would be much easier to kill Gentle Snow. Suddenly, Feng madly brandished his sword, tracing one trajectory after another in the air. This move was none other than the combat technique he had inadvertently learned in the Titan Library, Sword's Orbit. By tracing the 32 sword trajectories with his blades, Feng formed an impenetrable defense around him. Although a swordsman did not have a long attack range, his attacks could cover a 5-yard stretch in front of him, which just so happened to envelop Gentle Snow, who stood roughly 3 yards from him. While Feng had yet to master the sophisticated sword's orbit, his combat techniques were more than enough to block Lethal Gale and his people's attacks. As the incoming arrows, fireballs, and Lethal Gale's beheaded skill came within 5 yards of Feng, he blocked them. None of the attacks struck Gentle Snow or Feng. A skill? Lethal Gale's heart pounded as he watched Feng block all of the attacks. From his prior attack, he knew when his great sword was within 5 yards of Feng, and it felt as if he had struck a protective barrier. He hadn't been able to push his great sword an inch further. On the contrary, a powerful force had repelled his blade, preventing him from launching further attacks. As for Gentle Snow, who had stood, frozen, this entire time, she stared at Feng with an odd gaze. Unlike Lethal Gale, however, she did not think Feng had used a skill. When she stood within Sword's Orbit's protective field, she could feel that Feng's every swing was a normal attack. Yet, this combination of strikes looked like an in-game skill. The technique was divine. How did he do it? Gentle Snow was baffled. Despite only executing normal sword attacks, as if following some sort of rule, he managed to block the attacks that came at him from all directions. As Feng fended off a wave of attacks, Stone and Shattered Tooth took the opportunity when he withdrew his swords to use shadow steps. After appearing behind Feng, both assassins stabbed their daggers towards the back of the swordsman's neck viciously. The process was complete within an instant. However, when the daggers were an inch away from Feng's neck, all four weapons stopped abruptly. No matter how much strength the two assassins employed, they were unable to push their daggers any further. "Your footwork is impressive." Feng glanced at the two assassins in admiration. "Unfortunately, you tried to take me on." Due to their footwork technique, even Feng found it hard to notice them. If not for omniscient eyes, he might have fallen prey to their sneak attack. He would not have had the time to activate Defensive Blade to defend himself. Knowing that Feng had activated a life-saving skill, Stone and Shattered Tooth began to launch rapid attacks in hopes of depleting his Defensive Blade's block counts quickly. However, Feng did not give them the chance as he used Sword's Orbit once more. Suddenly, with Feng as the center, a storm raged. Due to Defensive Blade increasing his attack range, not only did his attacks envelop both Stone and Shattered Tooth, but also Lethal Gale. After learning Sword's Orbit, Feng discovered that this combat technique was both an effective defense as well as a powerful offense. By the time he finished the 32 sword trajectories, Stone and Shattered Tooth's bodies fell to the ground lifelessly. Meanwhile, Lethal Gale, who stood some distance away from Feng, had less than 10% of his HP remaining. His body was marred with cuts, fresh blood flowing from his wounds freely. The gruesome scene caused many of the surrounding spectators to shudder involuntarily. Chapter 979 Strength Gap. Chapter 979 Strength Gap. Hellscythe _Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 979 Strength Gap. What happened? How did those assassins die? That skill is so powerful! The spectating players on the street were dumbfounded by what had just happened. Feng's sword-drawing speed was incredibly fast. They hadn't even seen an afterimage of Feng's swords. They had barely seen Feng's arms move, and in the blink of an eye, not only had the assassins died, but even the distant berserker was left in a critical condition. Is this the strength of Zero Wings Feng? So awesome! He's too strong! Experts from other guilds, who had come to White River City to grind for reputation, stood among the spectators. Ordinary players might not realize what Feng had done and would assume that he had simply used a system-learned skill, but as experts, they knew that Feng's attack was no such thing. When Feng first used this skill, they had been uncertain. This time, however, they had watched its execution carefully. No matter what stance a player used to execute a learned skill, they all had the same starting motions. Moreover, the closer a player's movements were to the required actions the system had determined, the higher their skill completion rate would be. However, Feng's initial motions the second time he executed this skill were different from the first. Furthermore, how could such a powerful skill be used twice within 1 second? The skill had also been more powerful during its second use. No matter how they thought about it, this was out of line with God's domain's rules. The only explanation was that this was a combat technique. The various guild experts couldn't help but shudder. Unlike system skills, combat techniques were not limited by cooldowns or other restrictions. Even while silenced, they could use their combat techniques with normal attacks. The only downside was the burden on a player's stamina and concentration. Those who attacked using special combat techniques knew that the more powerful a technique was, the more of a burden it had on stamina and concentration. Meanwhile, of the 2 assassin experts Feng had defeated, both were level 39. Both could easily rank among the top of any kingdom's ranking list. As for the berserker Lethal Gale, they were even more familiar with him. After all, he was the berserker who had dueled Gentle Snow just some moments ago. With Lethal Gale's combat standards, he could rank highly even among Super Guild's experts. Yet, even when all 3 players had worked together, they had been beaten so badly. However, among the watching players, no one was more shocked than Gentle Snow. Is this really the Feng I know? She had personally experienced Lethal Gale's power. If not for her peak legacy, there was no way in hell she would have defeated the male berserker. In spite of that, Feng had ended the battle in 3 moves. Gentle Snow was even under the false impression that Lethal Gale and his assassins were, in fact, quite weak. She knew that wasn't true. Feng was just that strong. Despite such fierce attacks, not only had Feng nullified the attacks, but he had also dealt Lethal Gale and his companions such a devastating blow. Before this, Gentle Snow had never seen Feng's true strength. Now she finally understood that they were no longer on the same level. "Focus your attacks on Gentle Snow," Lethal Gale, who looked pitiful, hurriedly commanded as he retreated from Feng. He then took an ancient, black magic scroll from his bag. "To think I would be forced to waste this." Although it seemed as though both sides had been fighting for a long time, their exchange had only lasted a moment. The NPC guards were still quite a distance away from them. He still had time to use his precious Tier 3 magic scroll, Life Seizure. Life Seizure was a single-target attack spell that could even severely wound a Tier 3 class. It would be a small matter to instant kill a Tier 1 player. As Lethal Gale unfurled the magic scroll and began to activate it, a violent vortex of mana appeared above them. Even a fool could tell that this magic scroll was extraordinary. Lethal Gale's 3 remaining companions launched their attacks once more. Die! This time, their attacks were more vicious. All 3 hurled over 20 attacks at Gentle Snow. However, their attacks focused on quantity over quality. After all, even a low-damage skill like Ice Spear could deal frightening amounts of damage to Gentle Snow. In addition, the increased number of attacks would also make it more difficult for Feng to guard Gentle Snow. Despicable! The bystanders cursed at Lethal Gale's group as they watched. If this were a fair and proper battle, Lethal Gale's group would be no match for Feng. However, if Feng were forced to remain by Gentle Snow's side, the incoming Tier 3 spell would no doubt kill him. Suddenly, however, Feng appeared beside Lethal Gale, arcs of blue electricity circling his body faintly. Feng then sent a slash at the berserker, who was invoking the magic scroll. "What's going on?" Lethal Gale had not predicted that Feng would leave Gentle Snow to the wolves to come for him. However, as he glanced at Gentle Snow, he discovered Feng standing beside the female berserker. Lethal Gale wasn't the only one seeing this. Every other player on the street stared in wonder as well. "There are 2 of him? How can there be 2 of him? Is it a doppelganger skill?" As everyone tried to figure out what was going on, Lethal Gale's vision started to fade to gray. Before the shocked berserker realized it, his HP had fallen to 0. Such a fast attack! When Feng had appeared beside him, Lethal Gale saw a blue flash leave the swordsman's hand just before he activated Whirlwind Slash to fend off the attack. In the next moment, his body stopped responding to his commands. As his vision dimmed into darkness, he noticed the Feng before him dissipate into nothing. It was as if the attack hadn't happened, as if this had all been a bad dream. Meanwhile, before anyone realized it, another Feng had appeared behind Gentle Snow. Even more surprisingly, this new version of Feng blocked all 20+ attacks aimed at the Snow Goddess. Moreover, when he executed Sword's Orbit again, it was even more powerful than before. He struck down every spell and arrow before they had come within 10 yards of Gentle Snow. How did he do that? Everyone was shocked. Even the guild experts from other kingdoms and empires were speechless. Feng was like a ghost, appearing wherever he wanted. In reality, however, Feng had pushed himself to his very limits to execute this phantasmal attack. First, he had used Instant Strike to finish off Lethal Gale. He then activated Silent Steps to appear behind Gentle Snow. He had completed these 2 moves almost at the same time. Later, he executed Sword's Orbit. Although Feng appeared calm, he had exhausted most of his concentration. His head was starting to ache. "You guys have had your fun. It's my turn now." Looking at the 3 ranged members of Lethal Gale's party, Feng raised Killing Ray high before swinging it forward violently. Lightning Edge! Suddenly, streaks of blue lightning arced across the 50 yards ahead of him. Not only did the arcs of lightning devour the players' attacks, but the lightning also devoured the players. All 3 players transformed into particles of light, leaving behind only 3 items. Not even their corpses remained. Chapter 980 Yi Feng's Deterrent Force. Chapter 980 Yi Feng's Deterrent Force. Chapter 980 Yi Feng's Deterrent Force. Every spectator was shocked as they watched Feng instantly kill 3 level 39 expert players. What a powerful AoE attack skill! Is this Zero Wing's strength? After seeing this, the guild experts from other kingdoms and empires began to fear Zero Wing. If Feng decided to ambush their guild's elite teams in the field with such a powerful skill, the consequences would be unimaginable. He was practically a human cannon. Although he didn't wield as many AoE skills as elementalists, his versatility and mobility surpassed the latter by leaps and bounds. Currently, due to the emergence of the new class, many guilds had dispatched their top teams to grind for merits. As the top combatants of large guilds, they had their own pride. Due to that, they didn't pay any attention to White River City's ruler, Zero Wing. After all, they were not grinding around White River City. They were simply using the teleportation array within the city. Once they reached the Twin Towers Kingdom, Zero Wing would lose the home ground advantage. If Zero Wing wanted any level of authority in the Twin Towers Kingdom, it would have to rely on its team's strength. However, the strength Feng displayed a moment ago was beyond terrifying. He was fully capable of threatening their progress in the Twin Towers Kingdom. From now on, if they accidentally provoke Zero Wing, they would have to take into account the possibility of Zero Wing's teams annihilating them. Immediately, the various large guilds' top teams reined in their arrogance and reevaluated their opinion of Zero Wing. They had notified their teams in the Twin Towers Kingdom, warning them to avoid conflict with Zero Wing's teams as much as possible. Although they had their own experts, fighting Zero Wing would gain them nothing. Moreover, Zero Wing had another major advantage over the other large guilds. The teleportation house was located in White River City. Their foreign guilds did not have a residence here. They had to foot the additional fee of teleporting from their respective cities to White River City. Of course, it was a different story for wealthy tyrants like super guilds and super first-rate guilds. Super guilds and super first-rate guilds had far more powerful backgrounds than first-rate guilds. It was especially true for their connections. These guilds could set up a residence in any city in God's domain, after which, they could dispatch their guild members en masse. Unlike first-rate guilds, these superpowers didn't need to struggle to obtain land. This was why the various large guilds feared super guilds and super first-rate guilds. Not only could these major powers dispatch apex experts to assassinate their guild's upper echelons, but they could also send swarms of elite players to obliterate the guild members. After Lethal Gale's party had been annihilated, the NPC guards, who had been rushing to the scene, stopped and resumed their patrols. It was as if the surprise attack had never happened. As for Lethal Gale's party, who had initiated an attack within the city limits, they would not escape the system's punishment just because Feng had killed them. Once they revived in half an hour, the NPCs would arrest them in the Resurrection Temple. After taking care of Lethal Gale's party, Feng collected his spoils of war. Although the weapons and equipment Lethal Gale's party had dropped were useless to him, they could still enrich Zero Wing's guild warehouse. After Feng finished with the loot, he caught an advance horse carriage with gentle snow and proceeded towards a high-class restaurant in the nobles' district. From beginning to end, not a single player had dared to step forward to snatch Feng's loot. Only after Feng was truly out of sight did these players launch into heated discussions. What? Zero Wing's Feng wiped out Gale's party? How is that possible? Abandoned Wave was dumbfounded as he listened to his subordinate's report. He could not believe his ears. He then asked, "What about Gentle Snow? Did she die?" Lethal Gale's people were one of the top-ranking parties among those under his control. Usually, he tasked the party with assassinations and dealing with experts that made themselves a hindrance. Until now, they had never failed a job. They had always triumphed, even against a Void Realm expert. Field battles were different from PvP competitions. There were many factors that could affect a player's combat power, not to mention the combat power of a group. Thus, it had been easier to send Lethal Gale to warn away Gentle Snow's mysterious buyer. If words could not sway the buyer, Lethal Gale's party would convince the buyer to submit by force. However, after giving it some thought, this task had been quite dangerous. If he had help from the NPC guards, it wouldn't be impossible for Feng to annihilate Lethal Gale and his companions. Gentle Snow did not die. Gale's party couldn't even lay a finger on her before Feng slaughtered them, the bald, middle-aged man said as he nervously played a recording for Abandoned Wave. The video clip showed the entire process of Feng wiping out Lethal Gale's party. Many curious spectators had recorded the entire battle. This video was already a popular topic on Star Moon Kingdom's official forums. Not only had this incident boosted the fame of Zero Wing's Feng, but it also made a mockery of the Blackwater Corporation. Abandoned Wave's expression darkened as he watched the video. The dense killing intent he radiated could be felt over 30 yards away. Sensing this killing intent, several strong and talented youths rushed over asking, "Big Brother Wave, what happened? What has you so riled up?" Although these youths' levels were not high, they were greatly admired by the Divine Coliseum's regulars. "It's nothing." Abandoned Wave closed the video and raged. A cold glint flashed in his eyes as he said, "I've had to make some minor adjustments to my plans. Although young Master Jing has told me that there is no need to bother with Zero Wing, if I don't teach the guild a lesson, be it Black Flame or Feng, either will acknowledge the Blackwater Corporation's power. I've heard that the Heavenly Dragon Pavilion's Pavilion Master, Nine Dragons Emperor, has quite a grudge against Zero Wing and has been eager to teach Zero Wing a lesson. You, travel to the Black Dragon Empire and tell Qin Muyan this. If Nine Dragons Emperor wants to deal with Zero Wing, I will lend him a hand. Also, dispatch 3 parties to trail Gentle Snow. If there is an opportunity, kill her." "Understood." After receiving his instructions, the bald man rushed out of the VIP room. Inside a high-class restaurant in White River City's Nobles District, Zero Wing's elite members filled the restaurant. Furthermore, several of Zero Wing's core members surveyed the area from the establishment's main hall. The high-class restaurant had become an impenetrable fortress. Meanwhile, Feng and Gentle Snow chatted with each other on the top floor. "The Blackwater Corporation is quite eager to take your life," Feng commented as he gazed out the French windows. From his position, he could see at least 8 people stalking the restaurant. While there was a chance that he had earned his own stalkers, it was far easier to believe that these players were hunting Gentle Snow. After all, the Blackwater Corporation had ambushed her once before. Moreover, Gentle Snow was still weakened. He wouldn't be surprised if they tried another 3 or 4 assaults. Chapter 981 Difference Between Guilds. Chapter 981 Difference Between Guilds. As expected of the Blackwater Corporation, despite paying so little attention to God's domain when it launched, it has so many powerful experts, Feng commented. Prompted by Feng's remark, Gentle Snow followed his gaze out the window. What she saw, however, surprised her. U.P. Dated by Novelful. White River City was even more prosperous than Starmoon City. Even in the costly Nobles District, she could see plenty of players going about their business. From her vantage point, she had a clear view of what these players were doing, and very quickly, several players caught her attention. Although these players seemed to be chatting among themselves, they occasionally turned to look at the room she and Feng occupied. These were not low-level players either. The lowest among them was level 38, while the rest were level 39. Among these experts, a few neglected to hide their auras. Hence, she could feel just how much of a threat these people posed. If she left the building, needless to say, she wouldn't leave White River City alive. The Blackwater Corporation had not prepared overmuch for the first ambush. Feng's presence must have also been unexpected. However, the corporation would prepare from here on out. Relax. As long as you're in here, they can't touch you. If you stay here until you recover from your weakened state, they will eventually give up and leave, Feng assured Gentle Snow. On his way here, he had purchased the latest information regarding Ouroboros from the secret pavilion. Although the purchase had cost him a pretty penny, he had learned both bad and good news. He discovered that the Blackwater Corporation now focused fully on God's domain. In fact, it had already dealt with the companies that had backed Ouroboros. To put it simply, Blackwater now owned Ouroboros, although it had not yet declared so publicly. The good news was that he could finally recruit Gentle Snow. The bad news was that the Blackwater Corporation was not to be trifled with. Among the various international corporations, Blackwater was relatively overbearing. Moreover, the corporation had a powerful affinity for a game like God's Domain. Compared to veteran gamers, fighting experts a much higher starting point when they joined God's Domain. Their lack of familiarity with God's Domain's superhuman combat style was the only thing that held them back. However, once they were comfortable with this combat style, they would quickly become experts in God's Domain with the combat techniques they had learned in the real world. The Blackwater Corporation had a perfected system to nurture fighting experts. Moreover, after many years of development, it had various dojos around the globe. Given enough time, even super guilds would be no match for the Blackwater Corporation. Even in the past, shortly after the Mindspace system had launched, the Blackwater Corporation had forced itself into God's Domain. Although Blackwater had started later than everyone else, it was one of the first corporations to upgrade its own established guild into a super guild. In contrast, corporations like Open Source could only invest in super guilds and super first-rate guilds to establish themselves in God's Domain. It was simply too difficult to nurture their own expert players, much less Apex experts. By the time they did so, their competition would have left them in the dust. When Blackwater had begun to focus on developing in God's Domain, the game had been operating for over a year. After all, nobody would have imagined that the game would be more popular than fighting competitions, so much so that it had ushered in a new era. In reality, God's Domain had not only impacted the fighting industry. The various other industries had been affected as well. By then, God's Domain had become irreplaceable in people's lives. It was similar to humanity's introduction to the Internet several hundred years ago. After learning about the benefits of God's Domain, people couldn't live without it. U.P. Dated by Novelful. Meanwhile, among the affected industries, the fighting industry had suffered the most. When the Blackwater Corporation had officially shifted its focus to God's Domain, it had been significantly weakened. It wasn't even half as powerful as it has been during its peak. Even so, it lorded over God's Domain a decade later. Currently, Blackwater was still at its peak, yet it had already shifted its gaze to God's Domain. With its frightening financial strength and many experts, the corporation was akin to a natural disaster for Star Moon Kingdom's Zero Wing. If Zero Wing failed to cope with this disaster properly, it would be nothing more than a stepping stone for the Blackwater Corporation. I roughly understand Ouroboros' current situation. May I ask what you have planned? Is there anything I can with? Feng asked quietly as he turned to the somewhat dispirited Gentle Snow. Blackwater has already obtained the majority of Ouroboros' shares. Even my White Clan group cannot change that fact. The only thing I can do now is take as many people with me as I leave Ouroboros and start all over again elsewhere. Would Zero Wing be interested in purchasing any other materials? I can sell them to you at a 40% discount, Gentle Snow offered as she smiled bitterly. I also have a few plots of land in Star Moon Kingdom that I want to sell, although I am not sure if Zero Wing can stomach so much at once. She still intended to continue her development in another city in Star Moon Kingdom. After all, she understood Star Moon Kingdom's situation. However, after witnessing the Blackwater Corporation's strength, once it secured Ouroboros, she would seal her fate if she remained in this kingdom. Her only choice was to restart somewhere far from here. As for the shops and lands she owned in Star Moon Kingdom, there was no point in keeping them. The Blackwater Corporation would see to it that these lands became worthless. Hence, she might as well sell them to fund her relocation. Which lands you are trying to sell? Feng could not help but ask. If they were high-potential lands of a major city, they would become more valuable by the day. He would definitely profit if he purchased them. Most of the commercial lands I possess are in Star Moon Kingdom's top 10 major cities. I have a total of 11 plots. I also have 3 plots in the Black Dragon Empire and 2 in the Purple Thorns Kingdom, Gentle Snow said as she handed Feng the list. Here is a list of the lands, cities, and locations as well as my quoted prices. After Feng took a look through the list, he couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Zero Wing was no match for a first-rate guild. If these were only the lands under Gentle Snow's name, one could just imagine how many lands Ouroboros controlled. On the other hand, despite having so much money right now, Zero Wing struggled to purchase any lands in major cities. He was even forced to using the Holy City slots to purchase lands from super guilds. Based on the current market price, the cheapest land on the Snow Goddess's list was worth around 3,000 gold, while the most expensive were worth over 8,000. These lands had long since doubled their original selling prices. Based on Gentle Snow's quoted prices, he would need around 80,000 gold to purchase all 16 plots. Even Zero Wing could not fork over so much money at a moment's notice. Moreover, the prices were very reasonable. If anyone else were selling these lands, he might have to pay an additional 20,000 to 30,000 gold. Even then, he would have to fight many others to purchase them. Chapter 982 The Tip of the Iceberg. Chapter 982 The Tip of the Iceberg. Even to super guilds, 80,000 gold was a considerable amount of money. They couldn't collect so much money within a short period, much less the smaller guilds. Gentle Snow had little hope that anyone could afford to purchase all of her lands. She would just sell as many plots as she could. Once she collected enough coins, she could proceed with the next part of her plan more smoothly. While Feng carefully inspected the commercial lands, Gentle Snow received a call from Zhao Yueru. Snow, the guild has called an emergency elder meeting and has officially announced that Abandoned Wave will be replacing you as the guild leader. Aside from the raw materials you have, Abandoned Wave has frozen the guild's assets. Furthermore, many of the God-slaying army's members have reported ambushes in the fields and outside of dungeons. They've suffered grievous damages, Zhao Yueru reported, shaking with rage. The Blackwater Corporation was too vicious. The God-slaying army was their asset as they left Ouroboros. The guild had spent many years nurturing these experts. If these experts came them and they had enough funding, the new Ouroboros could quickly establish a firm foothold in another kingdom. Initially, hiding the locations of the army's members had not been an issue. After all, every member was an expert. With their equipment, killing these players would not be easy. Now, however, the Blackwater Corporation had somehow recruited an army of its own experts and slaughtered the God-slaying army scattered throughout Starmoon Kingdom. The loss of a single level might have been fine, but the lost weapons and equipment was horrendous. When Blackwater's experts killed them, the Legion members would drop at least 2 pieces of equipment, some would even drop 3 items. The God-slaying army had been equipped with the best items available in Ouroboros. If several hundred members lost an item each, it would severely wound the army, much less if they lost 2 or 3 items. They would need a lot of time to recover from the loss. Normally, the God-slaying army could simply replenish their equipment from the guild's warehouse. However, the Blackwater Corporation had already limited their authority. Now, they could not even take a piece of common equipment from the warehouse. With the God-slaying army suffering such a blow, rising in another kingdom in a short time would be impossible. I understand. For now, have the army's members be extra careful. Gentle Snow's frown deepened after receiving a more detailed report. Even Ouroboros' old rival, the Star Alliance, couldn't kill so many of the God-slaying army's members so quickly. Guild Leader Snow, you don't look too well. Has something happened? Feng asked curiously when he noticed Gentle Snow's troubled expression. I've just received news that Blackwater has already begun to exact its revenge. The God-slaying army that I command has suffered over 700 deaths. Although reports say that they've been ambushed by groups of cloaked players, I'm sure that these players are experts from Blackwater. Gentle Snow helplessly explained, not bothering to hide this fact from Feng. Moreover, it was impossible to keep a tight lid on such a major incident. It was only a matter of time before the truth revealed itself. It seems that your victory over Lethal Gale has made the Blackwater Corporation anxious. Otherwise, they'd have no reason to make such an excessive move. The news surprised Feng. No matter what was said or done, the Blackwater Corporation had already purchased Ouroboros. One could even go so far as to say that Ouroboros was the Blackwater Corporation. If news spread of mysterious players slaughtering Ouroboros' strongest legion on its own turf, it would damage the guild's reputation. Since Blackwater has already gone to such lengths, I'm betting that even if you leave Star Moon Kingdom, they will find some way to crush you, Feng said seriously. How about this? Invest in Zero Wing and become one of its shareholders. With Zero Wing's prestige in Star Moon Kingdom, the fledgling Blackwater Corporation should hesitate before declaring all-out war. This, Gentle Snow was taken aback upon hearing Feng's proposal. The symbol of Ouroboros, which the White Clan group had created, was incredibly important to her. If possible, she wanted to establish a new Ouroboros. However, if she joined Zero Wing with Ouroboros' top players, the Blackwater Corporation would shift its focus to Zero Wing. If you're worried about the percentage of shares that you'd control or how your subordinates would be treated, relax. I can give you 15% of Zero Wing's shares. I'll also give you 50 core member slots and the power to form the Ouroboros Legion, which will be under your full control. What do you think? Feng suggested. Are you not afraid of the backlash from Blackwater? Gentle Snow asked Feng seriously. With Zero Wing's strength and potential, don't you think that you'd be suffering a loss by offering me 15% of the guild's shares for the little manpower and resources in my possession? Zero Wing was no longer the upstart guild it had been. Not only did Zero Wing control Stone Forest Town, but it also owned Star Moon Kingdom's #1 trading firm. Zero Wing was the publicly acknowledged #1 guild in Star Moon Kingdom. Even first-rate guilds were no match for it. There were also many companies and corporations chomping at the bit to invest in Zero Wing. Some major corporations were offering enough to tempt super guilds for as little as 50% of Zero Wing's shares. Unfortunately, Zero Wing had declined every offer, yet Feng had offered 15% of the guild's shares to recruit her and her people. No one would believe this if she told them. In response to Gentle Snow's query, Feng shook his head and confidently stated, "No. You are worth it." Feng's answer confused Gentle Snow. Even she didn't believe that she was worth this price, yet Feng sounded strangely confident. Moreover, the look in Feng's eyes told her that he was not lying. Gentle Snow also felt a little moved. After so many years in Ouroboros, her trust had long since ceased to exist, yet she trusted Feng, despite so few meetings with him. Yet, despite only coming into contact with Feng several times before, the man had somehow managed to fill her with trust. She didn't know what to say. If Feng were a fool, Zero Wing wouldn't have had so much success. An indistinct feeling made Gentle Snow even more curious about the guild known as Zero Wing. After taking a deep breath, Gentle Snow looked at Feng and replied, "All right then. I agree to your conditions. However, you have to promise me one thing." Chapter 983 Gentle Snow's Condition. Chapter 983 Gentle Snow's Condition. Hellscythe_Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 983 Gentle Snow's Condition. Guild Leader Snow, feel free to state any concerns, Feng said, chuckling. Many of Ouroboros' elite and expert players followed Gentle Snow. If he recruited all of them, it would raise Zero Wing's overall strength by a large margin. Although Zero Wing's member count still wouldn't compare to a first-rate guild's, it would have far more elites than its competition. There was also Gentle Snow's potential to consider. If he could give Gentle Snow access to the secret pavilion's simulation training system, with her talent and his other training resources, it wouldn't be long before she became a true Apex expert. It wouldn't be long before she surpassed him, either. What guild wouldn't want such an expert? Moreover, Gentle Snow was different from Fire Dance and Violet Cloud, who lacked management experience. Regarding management capabilities, only Aqua Rose might be a match for Gentle Snow. Before joining Zero Wing, Aqua Rose had only managed her own subordinates in Twilight Echo. Gentle Snow, on the other hand, had managed Ouroboros. Moreover, her previous guild had continuously improved. The guild had even shown signs of surpassing the Star Alliance. Even if Gentle Snow listed 3 or 4 conditions, Feng would likely agree. Only Feng knew exactly how valuable an expert capable of becoming a Tier 6 God-ranked player was to a guild. After so many years of development, Ouroboros has formed its own perfect expert training system. This was the reason that Ouroboros had ranked near the top among first-rate guilds. Unlike other guilds, we could produce our own experts without recruiting or poaching players. However, the perfected expert training system had cost my White Clan group too much. Although I can bring the God-slaying army with me, I can't take the training center. The White Clan group only owns 40% of the training center's shares, while the other companies own the remaining 60%. I want Zero Wing to purchase the training center. Gentle Snow's condition stunned Feng for a moment. For any guild in God's domain, constructing their own training center was of the utmost importance. This was also why second-rate guilds couldn't compete with first-rate guilds. The initial cost of constructing an expert training center was already more than what the companies supporting second-rate guilds could handle. Moreover, even if a second-rate guild had a training center and established a perfect training system, the upkeep would be astronomically expensive. Unless a guild could earn enough to maintain this training system, no guild or company would be crazy enough to invest in something that would hemorrhage money. Feng had been contemplating his own training center as well. The Big Dipper training center was simply not enough to meet his requirements. The training center did not even have a simple simulation training system. However, as constructing a training center was immensely expensive, he had to tackle this problem gradually. He had never imagined that Gentle Snow would ask him to purchase Ouroboros' training center. He would have been lying if he had said he wasn't pleased. With Ouroboros' training center, Zero Wing could save several years of effort. Unfortunately, there was one big problem. He didn't have enough money. Feng had served as the guild leader of a second-rate guild in the past. He had been personally involved in establishing and constructing Shadow's training center. It had happened shortly after Shadow had officially become a second-rate guild. Hence, he knew just how much money a training center's construction required. If not for several major companies in Jinhai City working together, Shadow's training center would never have come into fruition. The cost of the site and machinery was one thing. However, the various simulation facilities and the required energy to maintain them were a different story. Take the Fruit of the Secret Pavilion's research, their simulation training system, for example. Only energy of the highest grade could power this kind of system. Even in inferior simulation systems, daily maintenance cost was enough to quickly bankrupt multiple large companies. With Zero Wing's current financial strength, affording its maintenance was impossible, not to mention purchasing it. Guild Leader Snow, you must be joking. Zero Wing can't even afford to operate a training center, not to mention purchasing a perfected one. Even if we could afford it, I doubt that the other companies would willingly sell it. After all, that is Ouroboros' foundation. As long as the training center exists, the guild can produce more experts, Feng said, smiling bitterly. Zero Wing had started with nothing. It didn't have the support of any companies. The Zero Wing workshop in the real world relied on the guild's daily income. Moreover, Feng also did not dare to convert in-game resources into credits casually. More major companies were joining God's domain by the day, and the competition was becoming more intense. The resources in God's domain were also becoming more valuable. Converting coins into credits would be a devastatingly foolish move. I understand that I am being somewhat unreasonable, but now is the best opportunity to buy it. Gentle Snow was also aware of how expensive it was to purchase a training center. Although Blackwater has purchased Ouroboros, Ouroboros' training center is nothing to the corporation. Meanwhile, the training center's daily operation is a huge burden to those companies. They will try to get rid of it as quickly as possible. If we don't buy it now, another corporation that wants to nurture its own experts will. If Zero Wing is willing to buy it, I can try to lower the price as much as possible. I understand. Please wait a moment. I have to contact the guild leader about this first, Feng said, creating an excuse to leave the room. It would be much more convenient to purchase a training center than establishing his own. If he purchased it now, he could save himself a lot of trouble in the future. Zero Wing would not have to risk stagnation as Shadow had in the past due to a lack of experts. With the training center, he could nurture a large number of experts rapidly, sending them out afterward to capture and defend towns. He could then use the money and resources these towns generated to sustain the training center. However, Zero Wing couldn't gather so much money in such a short time span. Forget it. Let's give it a try. After Feng left the room, he contacted Aqua Rose. Chapter 984 Qualifications for Corporation. Chapter 984 Qualifications for Corporation. Hellscythe _ Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 984 Qualifications for Corporation. Although Aqua Rose was Zero Wing's vice guild leader, her family owned its own large business. Twilight Echo was a first-rate guild with an even longer history than Ouroboros. Aqua Rose's family was one of Twilight Echo's major shareholders. In the past, Feng had learned that Aqua Rose's family owned the Sun and Moon Group. In 10 years' time, the Sun and Moon Group would join the Fortune 500 list. Of course, Aqua Rose had been the main contributor to the company's success. The Sun and Moon Group and the Open Source Corporation were both involved in the energy industry. Hence, Aqua Rose's family had been afraid of the Open Source Corporation when they had threatened the family to persuade Aqua Rose. Open Source was one of the industry's giants. On the other hand, Sun and Moon struggled within the middle ranks. If the Open Source Corporation wanted to, it could easily squash the Sun and Moon Group. However, although the Sun and Moon Group only ranked in the mid-range in the energy industry, it wielded an extraordinary amount of funds. After all, the most profitable resource in the world was energy, as it was used in nearly every aspect of life. It was also precisely this reason that Twilight Echo's members had treated Aqua Rose like a treasure, even making her the guild's honorary elder. Not only was the Sun and Moon Group one of Twilight Echo's major shareholders, but it was also the guild's biggest shareholder. Without the company's supply of energy, the other shareholders would choke on the daily cost of maintaining the guild's training center. Guild leader, has something happened? Aqua Rose asked. Aqua Rose was still dealing with the list of members they intended to send to other countries as well as various other tasks. She was so busy that her brain was about to short-circuit. Her helpers also rushed about the office, contacting guild members and dealing with the letters of intent from guild members who were willing to move to the branch guild. Now that Zero Wing planned to expand to other countries, many players wanted to apply to the branch guilds. Although the branch guilds were as safe as the headquarters in White River City, where they didn't have to worry about other guilds provoking Zero Wing, they would have more opportunities for promotion in the branch guilds. In White River City, there were only so many slots available for the guild's main force. Becoming a reserve member was nearly impossible, not to mention becoming an official member of the main force. However, once the branch guilds were established, the guild would establish new main forces, and the main force members enjoyed far more benefits than elite members. Aside from having priority over equipment, just the amount of magic crystals each main force member received was enough to make a player drool. Main force members also had the opportunity to obtain the rumored 100-berry wine. According to rumors, the 100-berry wine was even more effective than the Divine Colosseum's Ice Fire Spirit. It could help players improve their skill completion rates. Currently, not one bottle was available on the market. No one knew how to obtain their own. Only official members of Zero Wing's main force qualified to compete for the 100-berry wine. Since members of the branch guild's main forces would receive similar benefits, why wouldn't Zero Wing's elite members be tempted? When Aqua Rose had announced the news, many elite members frantically applied to join the branch guilds. Although Aqua Rose looked battered, inwardly, she was elated. She dreamed of helping Zero Wing grow stronger. Because of Zero Wing's extraordinary performance, her family now saw her in a different light. In fact, they even cancelled her engagement to Brilliant War God. As Zero Wing's performance reached new heights, her status in her household rose. Many large companies had secretly sent upper echelons to ask her family members to contact her, desperately wanting to invest in Zero Wing and offering many impressive perks. As a result, every time she visited home, her parents instantly pushed for her to meet with the company's representatives. She was even busier than the Star and Moon Group's CEO. It's nothing major. Didn't you say that your family has wanted to invest in Zero Wing? And that other companies frequently pester you to negotiation our cooperation? Feng asked. More representatives have been showing up lately as well. My family is also constantly on my case. I swear they are even more diligent now than when I had been forced into the engagement with Brilliant War God. They almost annoy me to death these days. Do you have a plan to deal with them, guild leader? Aqua Rose asked. Just discussing this topic made her head ache. She knew where Feng stood on the matter. Thus, she always rejected the offers. To avoid these people, she had no choice but to hide in her virtual gaming cabin. Only in God's domain would her family leave her alone. I have a method. It also isn't a solution to always have uncle and auntie pressing you for an answer. I can offer them an opportunity to work together. Feng said, chuckling. As for whether or not they want to cooperate with us, that will be up to them. Really? Aqua Rose froze, surprised by Feng's declaration. She couldn't believe this was true. Zero Wing was very famous in God's domain. This was because it had rejected countless investment offers. Other guilds dreamed of having their own investors, yet Zero Wing turned them away. Zero Wing was already known as one of the most difficult guilds to work with. Yes, I intend to rent some plots of land, so I would like you to find a few partners. However, each company must first invest 1 billion credits. I will choose a total of 10 partners. Gentle Snow had already given Feng a rough estimate of the cost. If he wanted to take over Ouroboros's training center, he needed at least 7 or 8 billion credits. Moreover, this was only the initial estimate. After all, Ouroboros's training center was massive. It even had its own independent research team. The training center was also located in a top-tier city. Considering, Gentle Snow's price was exceedingly low. Guild leader, are you talking about Stone Forest Town's lands? Aqua Rose was so shocked that she had to ask for confirmation. Feng nodded, replying seriously. That's right. Guild leader, although the player traffic in Stone Forest Town is high, as expensive as the town's lands are, they will never be worth as much as the golden lands in kingdoms and imperial capitals. Moreover, even those golden lands aren't worth that much money. Only a sucker would accept your offer. No one will agree to that. Aqua Rose said helplessly. For some reason, Aqua Rose constantly had the feeling that Feng lived in a different world. She was clearly the rich heiress here, yet when Feng talked about 1 billion credits, it sounded as if he were talking about chump change. That was 1 billion credits they were talking about. While the Sun and Moon Group could collect that much money, the other companies would likely hesitate. What if I have this item? Feng laughed as he retrieved an old parchment from his bag. This parchment was none other than the Star Moon Kingdom's city building order. With this, he could claim one unassigned location within Star Moon Kingdom and construct a city. Chapter 985 Shocking Star Moon Kingdom. Chapter 985 Shocking Star Moon Kingdom. Hellscythe_Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 985 Shocking Star Moon Kingdom. This is. Aqua Rose was astonished when she took a closer look at the old parchment's information on the screen. A city building order. This item was far more valuable than any captured town. Yet, while super guilds were investing time and effort into capturing towns, Feng had procured a city building order. Aqua Rose rubbed her eyes. She was sure that they were playing tricks on her. What was a Star Moon Kingdom city building order? That was proof that one had the rights to construct a player's city in Star Moon Kingdom. Currently, player towns in God's domain generally accommodated 30 to 50,000 people. However, none of the guilds that had captured various towns allowed had built houses in their towns. They had all built hotels. This way, the towns would accommodate more mobile players, which would, in turn, generate more income. Aside from guild members, players had practically no options to become permanent residents. Even so, a player town could only handle a limited amount of traffic. Take Stone Forest Town for example. Stone Forest Town was very close to the Stoneclaw Mountains. Because most of God's domain's players had already reached level 30, the town's traffic grew with each passing day, giving it an even livelier atmosphere than White River City. In the end, Zero Wing had no choice but to limit the amount of time each player could reside in Stone Forest Town's hotels. This was also why many companies desperately wanted to work with Zero Wing. However, a town had its limits. Not only was the area around Stone Forest Town small, but the local environment also posed a huge problem. It was not suitable for players seeking entertainment, which greatly limited the benefits a real-world company could reap from setting up a virtual shop. A city, on the other hand, was many times larger than a town. Generally, a town could house over 200,000 resident players, not including mobile players. If they chose an appropriate location, they could easily attract many entertainment seekers, who disliked adventuring and fighting, to live in the city. You've seen the city building order for yourself. Companies that cooperate with Zero Wing will be given priority when purchasing a large plot of land in the city. As for the 1 billion credits, that is only a deposit. However, before you let them in on this secret, find companies that truly intend to cooperate. Moreover, they must sign a confidentiality agreement. I don't want news of this to leak, attracting everyone's attention, Feng explained. In truth, he did not want to sell any of the city's lands because of how much more valuable they would become in the future. If he nurtured his city to have a population in the millions, he could drown Zero Wing in money each day with the profits from renting the city's lands. Unfortunately, he had no avenues to earn so much money in such a short time. I understand. I will see to the necessary arrangements right away. Aqua Rose nodded excitedly. Currently, the value of Stone Forest Town's lands could rival those with high potential in major cities. However, if they chose a strategic location to set up their city, the city's lands would easily surpass Stone Forest Town's by several, or even over 10 times. If she advertised this news, many corporations would be eager to work with them. How many days do you need to get this done? Feng asked. I'm in somewhat of a hurry for the money right now. Roughly 3 to 5 days. After all, most major companies would be hard-pressed to collect so much money on such short notice. After giving it some thought, Aqua Rose suggested, if you are in a rush for money, I can have my family pay for you first, or offer them a few more plots of land in the new city. I believe they will be more than willing. Although the new city had yet to be built, if a company could enter the city and construct its own virtual shop immediately, it would massively benefit the company's development in God's domain. After all, once the new city was complete, plenty of entertainment seekers were bound to visit the city. If a company could leave a deep impression on these players, more people would recognize them as they started shops in other cities. This would create brand awareness. All right. I await your good news, Feng said. As long as he gathered the necessary 10 billion credits, he was satisfied. Following which, Aqua Rose logged out of the game and hastened to make the necessary arrangements. As for Feng, he went back into the room. Guild Leader Snow, Zero Wing agrees to your conditions. However, we'll need some time to collect the required credits. It is unlikely that we can do so in 1 or 2 days, Feng explained. That won't be a problem. In any case, the training center won't sell quickly. That will also give me more time to drive down the price, Gentle Snow said, smiling. Initially, she had expected Zero Wing to reject her condition. Either that, or the guild would need a very long time to gather the required funds. She hadn't expected the guild to raise the money so quickly. As she experienced more, she realized how little she truly knew about the guild. Following which, Feng and Gentle Snow discussed the details of their contract. First, Gentle Snow would join Zero Wing with the elites and experts under her command. At the same time, Gentle Snow would transfer all lands in her control to Zero Wing. In return, Gentle Snow would receive 15% of Zero Wing's shares and become one of Zero Wing's vice guild leaders. Simultaneously, she would serve as the captain of the Ouroboros Legion and manage all of the Legion's affairs. After both parties signed the contract, Gentle Snow logged out of the game and to initiate her plan to purchase Ouroboros. Feng, on the other hand, headed to White River City's City Hall and took ownership of the 16 plots of land Gentle Snow had owned. Afterward, he simply needed to construct the Candlelight trading firm on these 16 commercial lands. With the additional coverage, the Candlelight trading firm's income would increase significantly. Gentle Snow's insight is impressive. Of the 3 lands in the Black Dragon Empire, one is in Emerald City. I won't have to hunt for an emerald source. After Feng visited the 11 plots of land in Starmoon Kingdom, he could not stifle his grin as he looked at the deeds for the 3 lands in the Black Dragon Empire. Emerald City was one of the Empire's top 10 major cities. It was in no way less prosperous than White River City. Players could find many ores around Emerald City, and emeralds were the most common, hence the name Emerald City. Emeralds were generally used as raw materials to produce ornaments, as the ore possessed relatively good mana-storing capabilities. It was rarely ever used to produce other items. However, aside from requiring mana stones, Titan City's magic light set equipment needed plenty of emeralds. With a shop in Emerald City, he could purchase emeralds long-term. His guild members wouldn't need to travel back and forth from the city constantly. Following which, Feng traveled to the Black Dragon Empire via Starmoon City's teleportation hall. Shortly after Feng left, a shock tore through Starmoon Kingdom's various guilds. What did you say? Zero Wing now owns Gentle Snow's lands? How can this be? Abandoned Wave was flabbergasted when he received the news. Chapter 986 War of First-Rate Guilds. Chapter 986 War of First-Rate Guilds. Boss Wave, there's no mistaking it. If you don't believe me, take a look at these pictures. Our shops in these locations are now owned by the Candlelight trading firm. The bald, middle-aged man reported as he displayed the pictures his subordinates had taken. Abandoned Wave's expression darkened as he looked through the images. Gentle Snow! Abandoned Wave slammed his palm on the wooden table. The impact shook the wine glass and bottle of Witch's Tear, nearly sending them to the ground. He had never imagined that, as soon as he forced Gentle Snow out of her position and killed her subordinates, the woman would counter with such a move. He hadn't even had a moment to enjoy his victory. In reality, Abandoned Wave wasn't the only person that Gentle Snow's actions had infuriated. The upper echelons from Starmoon Kingdom's various large guilds wore twisted expressions when they heard the news. What, exactly, is Gentle Snow trying to do? Has she lost her mind? She actually sold so many high-potential lands to Zero Wing. The various guilds loathed Gentle Snow's latest decision. They would rather pay double the price to purchase Gentle Snow's lands and let them rot in their hands than let them fall into the Candlelight trading firm's hands. These lands had originally housed Ouroboros' New Moon trading firm. Now, however, they housed the Candlelight trading firm. Although the storefronts were the cheapest variations, curious players had already crowded the shop's entrances, interested in the sudden change in purchasing items. It was very easy to transfer a shop's ownership to another player in God's domain. One simply needed to visit a city hall and follow the necessary procedures. If one didn't intend to modify the shop, only changing the name, they could immediately have NPCs do so free of charge. The Candlelight trading firm had always been known for its light stones and armor kits. The intermediate armor kits, in particular, usually sold out the instant they were restocked. If not for its low production volume, the Candlelight trading firm would have long since dominated Starmoon Kingdom's market. Even so, Candlelight had still become Starmoon Kingdom's #1 trading firm. Moreover, due to the Candlelight trading firm's lack of background, it had only purchased a limited number of high-potential lands, despite all of its efforts. As for Major City's golden lands, first, the trading firm could not afford them. After all, one golden land was worth around 3 or 4 high-potential lands in the same city. Unless Zero Wing intended to set up a particular city as its main headquarters or went on a spending spree, it would not purchase a city's golden lands. Second, Zero Wing's members did not have the required reputation to purchase golden lands in other cities. Therefore, the Candlelight trading firm's development in Starmoon Kingdom was limited. On the other hand, to avoid competition with the Candlelight trading firm, Gentle Snow's high-potential lands had been purchased in cities that lacked Candlelight's presence, or were located far from Candlelight's shops. By selling these lands to Zero Wing, Gentle Snow had just compensated for the Candlelight trading firm's shortcomings. Moreover, the Candlelight trading firm had recently recruited a large number of lifestyle players. Once the trading firm nurtured these lifestyle players, it would be a disaster for their guilds, who were already limited to a small corner of the market. However, they could not do anything to oppress the Candlelight trading firm in Starmoon Kingdom. While Starmoon Kingdom's various large guilds tried to think of a solution to cope with the Candlelight trading firm's new strength, Feng had teleported to Emerald City from the Black Dragon Empire's imperial capital, Black Dragon City. As soon as Feng exited the teleportation hall, he found just as many players in Emerald City as there were in White River City. Only the players' levels and equipment was slightly inferior to those in his home city. Currently, due to the teleportation house, one could easily find level 37 or level 38 players roaming about White River City streets. Prior to that, level 39 experts were as rare as a phoenix feather. Emerald City, however, was different. Feng rarely saw level 36 players roaming the streets, much less those who had reached level 37 or higher. However, unlike kingdoms, second or first-tier cities with populations ranging in the tens of millions were designated to God's domains empires. It was easy to find many gaming workshops and guilds based in these cities. With Emerald City being one of the top 10 cities of the Black Dragon Empire, Feng saw members from no less than 10 different guilds going about their business. Such a sight was rare in Starmoon Kingdom. Generally, only 3 or 4 large guilds contested over its major cities. Emerald City, on the other hand, had more than 10, and even the weakest among them were second-rate guilds. As for first-rate guilds, Feng counted 3 from where he stood. Emerald City already had as many first-rate guilds as Starmoon Kingdom. I recall that the Undefeated Dynasty had been Emerald City's ruling guild in the past. Among the many first-rate guilds, Undefeated Dynasty was relatively tolerant. I shouldn't need to worry about any trouble if I set a shop up here. Feng secretly assessed the city's situation as he rode an advanced horse carriage. Based on what he could see, a large number of the guild players roaming the streets belonged to Fantasy Shrine and Undefeated Dynasty. The other first-rate guild was World Dominators, which Feng was familiar with. Ever since Zero Wing had become White River City's overlord, World Dominators had withdrawn from Starmoon Kingdom, shifting its focus to the Black Dragon Empire and other kingdoms. Mountain ranges surrounded Emerald City, and it produced rare ores and emeralds. It was considered a strategic city in the Black Dragon Empire. There were only so many guilds in the city right now because the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion paid little attention to them. After Feng alighted from the horse carriage, he saw over a dozen independent players leaving the New Moon trading firm. These players had very high levels, with the lowest among them being level 36 and the rest being level 37. In a large guild, they would be elite members. As for their combat standards, at this stage of the game, it was very difficult for independent players who hadn't reached the Trial Tower's 5th floor to reach level 37. Moreover, these players were well equipped. Even the most inferior piece of equipment they wore was a level 35 secret silver rank. In the eyes of ordinary players, they would definitely be considered experts. Damn it, to think that intermediate regeneration potions and intermediate mana recovery potions would sell out so quickly. If I had known that something like this would happen, I would have stockpiled. Now I won't be able to earn a little bounty reward no matter how much I try. There's nothing we can do. Who would have expected Fantasy Shrine and Undefeated Dynasty to start a war against each other in Emerald City? They are even placing bounties on each other's members. Really, though, what is up with these guilds? Why did they suddenly declare war on each other? Haven't they tolerated each other pretty well until now? Based on some insider information I obtained, it seems that the two guilds have discovered a town above a mithril vein. If the town is captured, players can mine the vein freely. A mithril vein? Won't they be rich if they capture the town? I know, right? However, the NPCs guarding that town are extraordinary. Capturing the town will be very difficult. If one guild ambushes the other, the latter's efforts will go to waste. That's why both sides are trying to chase each other out of Emerald City. Large guild members sure have it easy, while independent players like us are exhausting ourselves just to find ordinary ores. They get to mine mithril, or in the safety of a town. As these players spoke of the mithril vein, they nearly drooled. Although mithril ore was not particularly valuable, it was frequently used to forge weapons and equipment. Generally, selling the mithril ore one had was very easy. If they could harvest a steady supply of the ore, they could earn more money than they could imagine. A mithril vein? Feng's lips curled into a smile as he watched the departing independent players. Chapter 987 Branch Residence. Chapter 987 Branch Residence. Hellscythe _Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 987 Branch Residence. After the dozen or so independent players left the New Moon trading firm, Feng entered the shop. Mithril veins were one of the more common mineral veins in God's domain. Large guilds also fought over them fiercely. As the producer of ores and emeralds in the Black Dragon Empire, there was more than one mineral vein in Emerald City's vicinity. This was also why Undefeated Dynasty, Emerald City's ruler in the past, had amassed a fortune. Meanwhile, the only mithril vein Emerald City's players knew of was beneath Whitebone Town. Whitebone Town had been relatively famous in the past because the mineral vein beneath it was a rich vein, and players could reach it easily to mine mithril Oregon. Although one could not make as much money as they could from the manatite vein under Raven's control, if developed, the profits would still be considerably shocking. However, current players were not yet strong enough to capture Whitebone Town. The NPCs guarding Whitebone Town were not humans, but undead. Their levels were all above 50. Moreover, any player that entered the mine would be cursed, causing them to lose 10% of their HP every 3 seconds. The curse also lasted for an hour. In addition, several level 70 Grand Lords lurked within the mine's depths. With players' current strength, even an army of several 100,000 elites would not be enough to defeat these monsters. However, this reminded Feng of something. The basic Holy Spirit Potion. This item would give players temporary immunity to curses. However, as the potion was only basic rank, its effects were limited. Fortunately, the potion could offer immunity to Whitebone Town's curse. Due to the richness of Whitebone Town's mithril vein, many players would take the risk to mine there. The money these players earned from a single day of mining the mithril ore and its byproducts was even more than those who grinded monsters in the fields or raided teen dungeons. Because of that, the basic Holy Spirit Potion had been extremely popular in Emerald City in the past. The potion had not been particularly expensive. Initially, each bottle only sold for 2 silver. Even ordinary players could afford that. The potion's effects only lasted for half an hour. In that time, one could easily earn more than 2 silver while mining underneath the town. Although Whitebone Town's monsters were very high-leveled, the mine's entrance was located in the town's outskirts. Not many monsters ventured there, so as long as one lured the monsters away, other players could enter the mine freely. The mine was massive, and its terrain was complicated. Very few monsters patrolled the mine, as well. As long as one didn't explore too deep, they would not find any significant danger. When a player finished their mining, they simply needed to use a return scroll to leave safely. Hence, many players had taken the risk to mine there. As more players headed to the mithril mine, the basic Holy Spirit Potion's price quickly rose to 5 silver. Later, it had even reached 10 silver per bottle. Alchemist players had been overjoyed. The basic Holy Spirit Potion's recipe was not particularly difficult to obtain. Level 30 and above team dungeons had a chance of dropping it. Unfortunately, the drop rate was very low, which resulted in few copies on the market. The potion's materials were also relatively common. Crafting the potion's main requirement was a Holy Spirit flower, which was considered a rare herb. Making the potion didn't even cost 1 silver. Thinking up to this point, Feng burst into action. This was a valuable opportunity to make a fortune. Emerald City's player population was in the millions. Once players discovered the method of mining in Whitebone Town, swarms of players would flock to the mithril vein. One could just imagine how large the market would be for the basic Holy Spirit potion. Following which, Feng changed the New Moon Trading Firm's name to the Candlelight Trading Firm and removed the lifestyle players and products in the shop. He then made a trip to the City Hall and spent 1,000 gold to upgrade the shop front to the highest ranking available. He also hired NPCs to purchase various kinds of ores, herbs, and emeralds. As for the candlelight products that would be sold in this shop and the shop's personnel, Feng passed the responsibility to the Candlelight Trading Firm's management team. Meanwhile, he visited the auction houses in the Black Dragon Empire's various cities to purchase the basic Holy Spirit potion recipe and Holy Spirit flowers. After spending most of the day like this, Feng finally bought all the recipes on the Black Dragon Empire's market. He had managed to collect a total of 776 recipes. Although the method to obtain the recipe was easy, its drop rate was painfully low. The recipe's current market price wasn't high. Feng only spent around 35 to 40 silver coins for each copy. Overall, he had not even spent 300 gold to buy all of the copies. The low price was mainly due to players not having a major use for the basic Holy Spirit potion. It simply wasn't one of Alchemist's hot items. If he were looking for the intermediate regeneration potion and the intermediate mana recovery potions recipes, however, they would be much more expensive. With so many recipes, even after every alchemist in the Candlelight Trading Firm learned it, he would still have plenty to spare. Feng had also bought over 6,500 stacks of Holy Spirit flowers, with 20 flowers per stack. Currently, each stack sold for around 12 to 13 silver. In total, Feng had spent over 800 gold on the Holy Spirit flowers. For a while, I'll have Candlelight purchase Holy Spirit flowers. Feng was mostly satisfied with how many Holy Spirit flowers he had procured. At the end of the day, the Holy Spirit flower was a rare herb. Rather than sell it, most guilds usually opted to store the flowers in their guild warehouses. Only independent players sold the herb, thus the limited supply on the market. If he turned these 6,500 plus stacks of Holy Spirit flower into basic Holy Spirit potions, he would have enough to last Emerald City's players for quite some time. As long as the Candlelight Trading Firm's acquisition of Holy Spirit flowers could keep up with the potion's demand, Emerald City would become a stable source of income for the trading firm for a relatively long time. Feng had also spent 3,000 gold to construct an advanced guild hall in Lake Heart City. Although the land he bought from Phoenix Rain could not compare to Zero Wing's main guild residence, the towering advanced guild hall was still impressive enough to shock Lake Heart City's players. Wow! This guild has style. I wonder which guild this is, to think that anyone would want to develop in this backwater city. It shouldn't be a large guild, right? Maybe it's some third-rate guild. I guess you're right. There is no way a large guild would fancy our Lake Heart City. There were not many players residing in Lake Heart City due to its location on an island. There were not many good leveling spots around either. The city's current population was slightly over 100,000. No first-rate guild would waste their efforts on a desolate city like this. As a result, only a second-rate guild ruled over Lake Heart City. Moreover, its main headquarters wasn't located in the city. Rather, it was based in a major city with a player population of over 500,000. Furthermore, the guild residences in Lake Heart City. They were a far cry from Zero Wing's magnificent advanced guild hall. Huh! Wait a minute! Look at the emblem on that guild flag. Doesn't that look like Zero Wing's six-winged emblem? Chapter 988 The Seven Treasures' First Appearance. Chapter 988 The 7 Treasures First Appearance. Hellscythe_Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 988. The 7 Treasures First Appearance. Upon hearing Zero Wing's name, the players on the street turned to look at the flag flying from the guild hall's roof. It really is a 6-winged emblem. What? Starmoon Kingdom's #1 guild is actually starting a branch guild here? Many people felt chills crawl down their spines, excitement overwhelming them as they stared at the guild flag. None of them could believe their eyes. Although Lake Heart City was in the Black Dragon Empire, the empire neighbored Starmoon Kingdom. They were up to date about the nearby kingdoms. They also frequently purchased a copy of the God's Domain Experts list. Everybody knew about Zero Wing's guild leader Black Flame. Moreover, the ruler of the Black Dragon Empire's imperial capital, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, had suffered at Zero Wing's hands. With such a powerful guild appearing in Lake Heart City, how could they contain their excitement? Since Zero Wing is coming here, does this mean we'll have a chance to join Zero Wing? I guess so. When a guild develops in a new city, it normally recruits some of the local players to expand gradually. I heard that the benefits Zero Wing offers are awesome. They are even better than what first-rate guilds offer. In other guilds, I heard that only core members get to use the guild hall's private rooms. On the other hand, one only needs to be an elite member in Zero Wing to rent a private room and accumulate the double EXP buff. I've always wanted to join Zero Wing. Unfortunately, it costs too much to teleport from the Black Dragon Empire to White River City. Now, though, I don't have to worry about teleportation fees. Anticipation filled these independent players' hearts as they ogled Zero Wing's new guild residence. To ordinary players, traveling to other countries was too expensive. Even if they spent their entire fortune traveling to White River City, there was no guarantee that they would be accepted into the guild. Furthermore, they had long since familiarized themselves with Lake Heart City and its surroundings. If they started developing in an unknown city, their leveling speed and daily income would decrease drastically. In addition, unlike in Lake Heart City, they wouldn't have companions to rely on in White River City. Now, however, times had changed. Shortly after Zero Wing's branch guild had appeared, news of this matter quickly spread throughout the city. Some rejoiced, while others grew worried. To independent players, Zero Wing's appearance was good news. To the local guilds, however, nothing was good about this development. When the Crimson Castle Guild, the second-rate guild ruling over Lake Heart City, received the news, it had held an emergency meeting among its upper echelons. Why has Zero Wing suddenly shown up in a backwater city like Lake Heart City? If Zero Wing really intends on developing here, they will target the high-resource areas we usually occupy. What's there to be afraid of? Even if Zero Wing is powerful in Starmoon Kingdom, this is Lake Heart City. This is our territory. We are far more familiar with the city's surroundings than Zero Wing. Even if a war breaks out between our guilds, the winner isn't set in stone. Crimson Castle's upper echelons discussed the situation heatedly. Although the leveling areas around Lake Heart City were not particularly beneficial, once players familiarized themselves with the area, their leveling speed would increase. Moreover, unlike other cities, there were very few guilds in Lake Heart City. This allowed Crimson Castle to obtain plenty of raw materials very easily. There is no need to get too worked up about this. I have heard that the situation in Starmoon Kingdom isn't very stable. Zero Wing won't focus too much on conquering Lake Heart City. Moreover, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion has a grudge against Zero Wing. If we report Zero Wing's arrival to the pavilion will seek vengeance. The dignified, middle-aged man in the guild leader's seat said as he watched the arguing players before him. In a deep tone, he said, "During this period, keep an eye on Zero Wing's members. Report everything to the pavilion." Hearing their guild leader's order, the Crimson Castle's upper echelons fell silent and nodded in agreement. As their guild leader had said, Zero Wing had used the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion as a stepping stone to become famous, leaving the pavilion's prestige in tatters. After that incident, the Heavenly Dragon Pavilion's 9 Dragons Emperor declared that he would not let the matter rest. Although dealing with Zero Wing in Starmoon Kingdom was difficult for the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, it was a different story in the Black Dragon Empire. The Black Dragon Empire was the pavilion's territory. It would be child's play to take care of a measly branch guild. While Crimson Castle hashed out a plan to deal with Zero Wing, Feng spent 300 gold to bind the guild transfer scroll's coordinates. Afterward, Zero Wing's members in White River City could simply purchase Lakeheart City's guild transfer scrolls to travel to the city directly. The guild transfer scroll was one of a guild's greatest benefits. Unlike NPC City's teleportation halls, which charged a steep teleportation fee, players only needed to purchase the corresponding guild transfer scroll to reach their desired guild residence. However, such a major benefit came with restrictions. Players were only allowed to carry one guild transfer scroll at a time. Moreover, the scroll had a very long cooldown. The transfer scroll's prices also varied depending on the distance between the destination and where it was purchased. Regardless, it was still cheaper than using the teleportation halls. If a guild had enough guild residences, it could easily replace teleportation halls. When Feng finished binding the coordinates, he looked at the time. Glancing up at the already dark sky, he called up his system interface, intending to log off for the day and rest. Now that he had established Lakeheart City's branch guild, he needed Aqua Rose to transfer the batches of selected members. As for Raven's monster-repelling issue, Feng had already instructed Flying Shadow to handle it. Originally, he had intended Fire Dance to carry out the task. However, Fire Dance was currently busy leading Zero Wing's members in raiding the Undead Gorge and did not have time to spare. So, he used his next best option, Flying Shadow. Flying Shadow was Zero Wing's second best assassin. Not only was his movement speed quite high, but he could also move about rather secretively. He wasn't easy to detect. When it was time to repel the monster invasion, Flying Shadow could use the monster repellent scroll without anyone noticing, which would reduce the chances of Raven discovering the scroll. Although the monster repellent scroll was very rare and few people knew about it, seeing as Quiet Melody, the Sacred Temple's vice-temple master, had purchased so many in Blackwing City, Feng deemed it wise to use the scrolls discreetly, hiding the scroll's function. In any case, Zero Wing only needed to repel the invasions. It was not obligated to reveal its means of doing so. After clicking the Logout button, while Feng waited on the logout timer, he habitually used the Golden Stigmata's detect skill. The quest to find the 7 treasures was truly sinister. With God's domain being so massive, how was he supposed to locate them? Fortunately, he had been given a very long time limit to complete the quest. Hence, Feng routinely used the detect skill once a day. If not for the skill's one-day cooldown, his search for the 7 treasures would have proceeded much faster. After using the detect skill, Feng heard the sound of a system notification. System, the Golden Stigmata has detected the 7 treasures' energy waves. Do you wish to track the energy waves? Why would the 7 treasures be here? Feng instantly tensed. He had never imagined that he would come across the 7 treasures' energy waves in Lakeheart City. Chapter 989 Special Set Equipment. Chapter 989 Special Set Equipment. Hellscythe_Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 989 Special Set Equipment. Upon hearing the system notification, Feng immediately stopped the logout process and chose to track the energy waves. The Golden Stigmata's detect had a 50,000-yard range, which was not particularly large. The skill just managed to cover Lakeheart City as well as the surrounding forests and fields. There should not be any monsters within that range, and it was even less likely for there to be any relics. Otherwise, someone would have long since discovered them. After all, it was impossible for an NPC city to be constructed above a relic. Yet, the 7 treasures, which had been lost for many years, had appeared in the middle of nowhere. It was inconceivable. As expected, it is inside the city. Feng could not help his surprise when he saw the perceived location on his map. This should be in the Nobles District. Although Feng knew that the 7 treasures could be anywhere, who could have thought that he would find the legendary 7 treasures in Lakeheart City's Nobles District? If the War God's Temple knew that the 7 treasures were in the Black Dragon Empire, they would have turned the Empire over in their search, not to mention the insignificant Lake Heart City. After checking the general location, Feng summoned the demonic flame tiger and charged towards the noble's district. A monster! A monster has appeared in the city! Crap, that's a mount! What kind of mount is that? It's so cool! When the players on the street saw the demonic flame tiger charge out of Zero Wing's residence, they were stupefied. A city like Lake Heart City didn't even have one level 40 player, much less a mount. Hence, when these players saw the majestic, towering demonic flame tiger, they grew more enthusiastic to join Zero Wing. Black Dragon Empire, Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's guild residence. Entering the guild leader's office, a beautiful, tall female summoner reported respectfully. Vice Guild Leader, the Crimson Castle's guild leader requests a meeting with you. He claims that it is related to Zero Wing. I understand. It seems that quite a few people are displeased with Zero Wing today. Blood Dragon, the guild leader of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's Black Dragon Empire branch guild, said, chuckling. Ghosts, bring him in. The female summoner, Beautiful Ghost, nodded. She left the office to guide Crimson Castle's guild leader. Inside the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's reception room, a robust man, standing about 2 meters tall, waited patiently. This man was none other than the Crimson Castle's guild leader, Crimson Fox. Why haven't they met with me yet? Crimson Fox was frustrated as he stared beyond the window pane at the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's members going about their business. Sure enough, the pavilion deserved to be called a super first-rate guild. Despite only being a branch guild's residence, he saw plenty of experts moving about the hall, with many of them radiating a significant pressure. Among these experts, he envied a few players' equipment. The Crimson Castle could never compare to a guild like the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Crimson Fox had originally intended to send one of the guild's upper echelons to the pavilion. However, when he thought about the violent and arrogant temper of the pavilion's vice guild leader, Blood Dragon, he felt that it would be safer if he visited the guild personally. Once he reached the pavilion's guild residence, he firmly believed that he had made the right decision. His guild's representative would never have been allowed through the pavilion's gates. Moreover, not long ago, he received another message from his subordinates stating that Zero Wing's demonic flame tiger had appeared in Lake Heart City. The upper echelons of God's domain's various guilds were no strangers to the demonic tiger. After all, the demonic tiger was known as the best mount in God's domain. Many even suspected that it might be a fine gold mount. Besides, this powerful mount's owner was none other than Zero Wing's Feng. Those who understood Zero Wing knew that Feng's position in the guild was definitely among the top 3. He might even be second only to Zero Wing's guild leader Black Flame. Such an important figure in Lake Heart City stressed Crimson Fox. Anyone capable of leading a large guild was no idiot. With a figure like Feng visiting the city, it was clear how important Lake Heart City was to Zero Wing. If they did not remove Zero Wing as soon as possible, it would only be a matter of time before Crimson Castle fell from the position of the city's ruler. While Crimson Fox occupied himself with these thoughts, the reception room's wooden doors swung open. A tall beauty then entered the room. This woman was the female summoner Beautiful Ghost, who had reported to Blood Dragon. When Crimson Fox's eyes met Beautiful Ghost's, he shuddered. Alarm bells rang in his mind, warning him to be careful of the woman standing before him. You're Crimson Fox? Follow me, Beautiful Ghost said. After sparing Crimson Fox a glance, she turned and left the reception room with an air of indifference. Her eyes hadn't contained a hint of respect when she looked at Crimson Fox. Rather, they held contempt, as if she had been watching an ant. If not for Blood Dragon's orders, she would not have paid any attention to the man at all. Although Crimson Fox wanted to respond, after a moment of hesitation, he chose to shut his mouth. Aside from the fact that he was on foreign soil, this female summoner was already stronger than him. Not only was she level 39, but her equipment also radiated the unique glow of dark gold items. Moreover, the red-blue robes, headwear, and other equipment were clearly pieces of a set. In other words, Beautiful Ghost wore a dark gold set equipment. In comparison, he only had individual pieces of level 35 dark gold equipment. A level 35 dark gold set equipment? As expected of a super first-rate guild. Crimson Fox smiled bitterly. He had no choice but to endure this woman's contemptuous look. After all, she had more than earned her arrogance. However, Crimson Fox did not know that Beautiful Ghost's dark gold set equipment was not a level 35 set. If Feng were present, he would have instantly recognized the equipment. This was the level 40 dark gold set equipment, Life Summons. Only level 40 and above field great lords had a chance of dropping these set pieces. Initially, only level 40 summoners could equip the Life Summons set. However, this equipment was somewhat special. If one had all 5 pieces of the set, the level requirement would drop by 5 levels. Under Beautiful Ghost's lead, Crimson Fox quickly arrived before the guild leader's office on the 3rd floor. On his way, Crimson Fox had seen many level 50 NPC guards. Without someone of relevance as a guide, even the guild's elite members would not be allowed near the guild leader's office. Upon entering the office, Crimson Fox involuntarily shuddered. He felt an immense pressure, almost as if a boss monster were in the room with him. Moreover, it didn't feel like any ordinary boss monster. At the very least, it felt like a lord boss or stronger. How is this possible? Crimson Fox stared at Blood Dragon, who leaned against his office chair while enjoying a glass of wine, shock filling his heart. Is this the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's vice guild leader? At this moment, Crimson Fox struggled to breathe. Compared to Blood Dragon, the pressure he felt from Beautiful Ghosts before was a joke. Against Beautiful Ghost, he could, more or less, move unaffected. However, when faced with Blood Dragon, his movements were somewhat sluggish. In battle, this pressure would greatly impact his combat power. However, the scene inside the office was even more shocking. Seated opposite of Blood Dragon was a gorgeous woman who, despite the powerful mental oppression in the room, seemed utterly unaffected. Chapter 990 Empire's Overlord. Chapter 990 Empire's Overlord. Hellscythe _ Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 990 Empire's Overlord. Who is she? Crimson Fox's attention unconsciously drifted to the leisurely woman. Currently, Blood Dragon was level 40, and only a handful of players throughout the Black Dragon Empire had reached this level. Level 40 players were much stronger than level 39 players in terms of attributes, as they could equip level 40 equipment. If even he, someone who wore a full collection of level 35 dark gold equipment, felt such immense pressure from Blood Dragon, one could just imagine how intense of a pressure a level 20 player would feel in Blood Dragon's aura. Yet, the mysterious woman before him treated Blood Dragon's undisguised aura as if it were a spring breeze. In addition, the mysterious woman herself exuded a noble and graceful aura that coaxed one into submission. Sit, Blood Dragon told Crimson Fox as he pointed to one of the wooden chairs on the other side of his desk. Let me introduce you. This beauty is the Blackwater Corporation's representative, Qin Muyun. Like you, she is here for Zero Wing. The Blackwater Corporation? Crimson Fox was taken aback. Everyone had heard of the Blackwater Corporation. It was a Fortune 500 company. Meanwhile, the young woman before him had been chosen to represent such a major corporation. Guild Leader Crimson, if you have any information regarding Zero Wing that you wish to share, please tell us. I believe that Miss Muyun is also interested to hear it, Blood Dragon said, chuckling. Crimson Fox nodded nervously. He then relayed everything about Zero Wing's development in Lakeheart City. Vice Guild Leader Blood, you've seen Zero Wing's ambition for yourself? If we let Zero Wing develop any further, no one will be able to guarantee that Zero Wing won't set its sights on the Black Dragon Empire. If we don't take measures to contain the guild, with its development speed thus far, it won't be long before it grows so big that even you will be helpless against it, Qin Muyun said, smiling. You should consider my earlier proposal. Qin Muyun had the voice of a siren. Her words were intoxicating. Even an expert like Crimson Fox was not completely unaffected. Initially, Qin Muyun had worried that the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion would reject their offer of cooperation. Now, however, her worries had been resolved. Before this, Zero Wing's operations had been limited to Starmoon Kingdom. No matter how strong it became, it wouldn't impact the pavilion's operations in the Black Dragon Empire. However, she had never imagined that, of all places, Zero Wing would choose to expand into the Black Dragon Empire. The Black Dragon Empire was the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's territory. For the sake of its reputation, the pavilion couldn't let Zero Wing enjoy itself here. Otherwise, Nine Dragons Emperor's prior declaration would be nothing more than his own disgrace. Since Miss Muyun has already said as much, I agree to provide support and resources, products, coins, and experts to help you defeat Zero Wing. Once the deed is done, however, the pavilion wants full authority over Stone Forest Town. Please rest assured. As long as the pavilion helps us from the sidelines, the Blackwater Corporation will deal with the rest. Qin Mian smiled. If there isn't anything else to discuss, I must leave to report the good news to my superiors. Blood Dragon nodded before sending Qin Mian off with his gaze. Vice Guild Leader Blood, what about Lake Heart City? Crimson Fox asked anxiously. Lake Heart City was an important source of income for the Crimson Castle. Without it, the guild's development would deteriorate significantly. Relax. Since Zero Wing dares to enter the Black Dragon Empire, the pavilion won't let the guild off the hook. I will send the Blood Legion to assist the Crimson Castle. We'll make sure that Zero Wing regrets ever setting foot in the Black Dragon Empire. Blood Dragon could not help but chuckle. Turning to Crimson Fox, he spoke in a domineering tone. I'll appoint my aide, Beautiful Ghost, to command the operation. I believe that you do not have any arguments, right? Of course, of course, Crimson Fox said excitedly. The Blood Legion was a legion of expert assassins that everyone in the Black Dragon Empire knew about. Not only did these experts possess excellent equipment, but every one of them was also adept with ambushes in the fields. Although the Blood Legion was not the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's strongest force, it was the one that the various large guilds feared the most. Even first-rate guilds were afraid of the Blood Legion. Out in the fields, even a single expert assassin was a force not to be reckoned with. Knowing that a team of 1,000 expert assassins waited for them, who would possibly be bold enough to venture out to grind monsters. Even if a guild dispatched a small army of players to hunt down the Blood Legion, its efforts would be futile. It was precisely this reason that the various large guilds paled at the mention of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's Blood Legion. Only a super first-rate guild with a powerful foundation was capable of compiling such a force. For a first-rate guild, even forming a team of 100 expert assassins was impossible. Now that the pavilion intended to dispatch the Blood Legion, Zero Wing's members should not even consider leaving Lake Heart City. If they did, they should not dream of returning alive. If this persisted, Zero Wing would not survive in Lake Heart City. Eventually, it would be forced to withdraw. I'll leave the rest to you, Blood Dragon told Beautiful Ghost. Vice Guild Leader, do not worry. I will gather the men right away. It will only take a few days to eradicate Zero Wing from the Black Dragon Empire, Beautiful Ghost said very confidently. In Beautiful Ghost's opinion, their opponent was merely Zero Wing's branch guild. Dispatching the Blood Legion was simply making a big fuss over nothing. Lake Heart City's Nobles District. Not many players wandered down the street of Western European buildings, only NPC nobles. When Feng arrived before a luxurious mansion atop the demonic Flame Tiger, he noticed a team of 20 players gathered at its gates. He also spotted a few familiar figures among the team members. These people were none other than Thoughtful Rain, Blue Bamboo, Gunfire, Death Wind, and Autumn Goose. Big Brother Yi Feng! Why are you here? Blue Bamboo noticed Feng and the towering demonic Flame Tiger immediately, surprise flashing in her eyes. Hearing Blue Bamboo's exclamation, Thoughtful Rain and the others turned towards the demonic tiger by the entrance. Feng was even more shocked by the sudden development than Thoughtful Rain and her companions. He had only arrived before this mansion due to the 7 treasures. At this point, the golden stigmatist tracker pointed to the 7 treasures' exact location. He had never expected to find Thoughtful Rain and the others here as well. However, after Blue Bamboo had noticed him, the rest of the team turned and glared as if he were their greatest enemy, killing intent filling their eyes. Suddenly, The shield warrior Deathwind scattered the heavy atmosphere as he approached Feng and asked pleasantly, Brother Yi Feng, what a coincidence! Are you here for a quest as well? You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.